Good afternoon. It is a great President's Day here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. I'm Matthew Alvarez.
And I'm Robert McNeely. It's also Jim Jordan's birthday, so happy birthday, sir. That's why I don't have a coat on right now. It's sitting behind me. I'll put it back on. But we thought, why not start the broadcast to honor a great congressman, someone who's been literally wrestling against the far left, as we know. Great records at UW-Madison. Of course, a native son of the Buckeye State of Ohio. But Jim Jordan, happy birthday, my friend.
And he's going to have to roll up the sleeves, I think, to get it just right.
Just right. I might do that real quick, because we got breaking news. So we'll roll those sleeves up here.
So definitely, of course, today is Monday, February 17th. Thank you guys so much for streaming in. We have a lot to get to, of course, including a number of interviews a bit later in the broadcast. We're going to go over the first month of President Trump's 47th, as he's the 47th Commander-in-Chief. We have a lot of details to get to, of course, there. I was thinking the other day, President Trump is the George Washington and Thomas Jefferson of our time. I mean, the amount of things that we faced in this country over the past 4 years, and we're seeing Trump, America Revolution 2.0 without the bloodshed, which is great.
And like the first Vice President, John Adams, we have the 50th, J.D. Vance, who's on the road arguing for natural law, natural order, and the ideals of not only caring for your country, but caring for your family first and foremost, and your neighbors, and then going out and branching off into your country, into your world. And it's so cool to see. This once argued that this was the post-constitutional era of America with people like Joe Biden, Barack Obama, Kamala Harris. But these gentlemen, Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, restoring what the founders had envisioned, a country, a constitutional republic, men equal under the law, bestowed by their creator these certain inalienable rights: life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, of course, our Bill of Rights. It's a new dawn in America.
It sure is. And speaking of that, the Trump effect continues at a historic pace. Of course, we've seen since his first month back in office, the president has taken very large moves, actions to usher in that golden age of America. Everything from border security, deregulation, government accountability, and leveling the playing field for American workers, to name a few. That, according to the White House as well, but that's exactly what really has happened for our country.
Oh, there's no question about it. In roughly 1 month, we have seen executive orders, memorandums, and really bills that will change people's lives for the better. Of course, the signing of the Lake and Riley Act that took place, and really a restore to order. President Trump also being the first sitting president to attend a Super Bowl, Super Bowl 59, and the second, he also did it once prior in 2020, to attend the Great American Race, Daytona 500. Of course, Matthew, wonderful coverage yesterday, and how exciting was it to see the Beast do a couple of laps around with Carolina. I'm sure that was a thrill for President Trump's granddaughter.
Yeah, that was quite the awesome moment in time there in Daytona Beach, Florida. Of course, for those of you that remember the Chevy-Ford poll, well, Chevy has won the poll. About 793 people took part in it. They said Chevy's better than Ford. Well, I know a lot of you might disagree, but Chevy won that poll. Also, speaking of winning the poll, a Chevy car is the one that won yesterday's Daytona 500. So
right,
pretty
so
cool.
It was befitting of your prediction. Of course, I share that on my True Social. I'm more of a Ford guy. But,
same here.
It is what it is. I mean, two great American brands.
Exactly. So we're going to get to a number of items today, including the 7 people that are still awaiting to be confirmed in President Trump's cabinet. We'll also go over some of the highlights over the past month. We'll have some interviews here as well, and we'll be covering any breaking news as it happens right here on RSBN Live. Before we get to our great sponsors, it's interesting. Robert and I did not talk about which ties we were going to wear today, but since we are in Auburn, Alabama, these are the Auburn colors. Specifically, though, that tie is from the Fighting Illini, though.
It is, and I can bring this up just a moment here. There's the I on there. I'm a proud graduate of the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. I mean, this area kind of reminds me a little bit, better weather, but the Auburn, Opelika, smaller town, Twin City thing happening like Champaign-Urbana. So it's nice to live in the friendliest village on the plains, because to say Champaign-Urbana, those are probably the friendliest villages in the plains in Illinois. So something that combines those two schools.
Definitely. We also have some, changing the subject big time, we have some southern border video that we're going to show you in just a minute as well from the Department of Defense. Bringing it back to Auburn, I want to share this with you. This hat is an awesome Auburn hat, has the Auburn football helmet on it, the kind of the rope here. This guy is more of a golfer than I am. I'm working on getting better at golf. So I got this at the Texas A&M Auburn football game.
Very nice.
And now it is yours.
Oh my goodness. No, I can't take this from you.
No, go ahead.
Oh, thank you.
All good.
Wow.
So
he's so generous.
Well, hey, it's all good. So
Wow,
there you
that's
go.
incredible.
Because I know he's been looking for a pretty cool Auburn hat.
Wow.
I think you purchased maybe one. Did you purchase any?
I have one thus far, which is it's kind of that trim, that golf trim, but also the Auburn in cursive. So, my buddy, this guy.
That's cool. That's a cool.
Really
That's a cool hat. Actually.
And I'm not much of I'm not a hat wearer per se, but this is a cool hat.
Yeah.
These are the kind of hats I like.
Well, there you go.
Oh wow, thank you, sir.
There you go.
That's amazing.
I thought about it today. I had the hat and I said, I'm going to give this to Bobby. And anyway, well, there you go. 12:09. That ends our broadcast. No, I'm kidding. All right, so let's go right into the Colonial Metals Group. Obviously, a great sponsor here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. Let's get into it. We have an urgent retirement warning, of course. You see these billionaires that some of them are just dumping a lot of their stocks.
Right.
Warren Buffett, $133 billion recently. We're told others have included Larry Page, Jamie Dimon, the CEO of the world's largest bank. But we trust these guys because at the end of the day, gold and silver, high value, always good to, especially if you have a retirement or a little bit of a cushion, to put it into gold and silver.
Oh, exactly. And here's the thing. The price of gold has gone up in worth 7,000% since 1971. That's when they ended the gold standard through the Nixon administration. So between then and last year, it has skyrocketed. It has never gone down. So it makes sense to diversify your portfolio and your assets, your 401k, IRA, properties and such with gold, silver, and precious metals. Great patriots like Judge Jeanine Pirro, she endorses this. Also Larry Kudlow as well, who knows a lot about economics and was truly one of the leaders who helped bring in and usher in tax reform under then Speaker, of course, Paul Ryan and President Trump in the first term.
So go to freegoldguide.com/RSBN. Also, you can qualify for a free home safe and as much as $7,500 in free silver. So check it out. That's freegoldguide.com/RSBN. Let's continue on with some of our great sponsors here. Again, for those of you wondering, obviously we don't throw to many commercial breaks here. These are indirectly commercial breaks because paying the bills is a real deal. I mean, it's part of what we do here at the network. We work in partnership with great products, and we do have to take time to thank some great sponsors. You're seeing the live picture of the White House there, but let's also thank RepublicanRed.com. As we see here, this is the 45 to 47 red blend. This stuff I hear is great. Haven't tried it yet, but be nice to try it sometime. And then that one.
And this, yes, the sparkling wine, so delicious, a nice mix of, we have some Chardonnay here, some Brut Cuvée, and Pinot Noir, so an interesting mix, a nice sparkling one as well. And I love the toast on the back. This is a golden age to America. We've been taking the House, we have taken the Senate, we have put our champion back in the White House, so let's raise a glass to the red wave and the power of American patriotism. The best is yet to come.
All you have to do is go to RepublicanRed.com. Great website. Just type in that RSBN promo code for a discount on these great products right there. We have more products to share with you a little bit later in the show. Great partnerships here at the network. Colonial Metals Group, Republican Red, and more coming up in just a minute. It's 12/12, Monday, February 17th. Thanks again for joining us. Let's get into some of the information that we're seeing out there when it comes to the 7 people that we are still awaiting to be confirmed within the cabinet. So I'm going to get to that list here in just a second, but we see that 16 people that President Trump said, I want at that cabinet position and that one have been confirmed,
right?
Like RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard and on, Pam Bondi, Pete Hegseth and on. Let's talk about each of these 7. The first one, of course, Kash Patel, the FBI director. We're looking forward to seeing that confirmation process. Your thoughts about Kash?
Well, the biggest hurdle was really getting out of the Judiciary Committee, and that was solely a partisan vote, 12-10. And Chuck Grassley really laid it out so well. He actually mentioned that this has been a public defender representing the accused against the power of the state. Mr. Patel has been a congressional staffer investigating the partisan weaponization of our legal system, and he served in key national security roles protecting Americans from foreign enemies. Without Kash Patel, without Devin Nunes, we wouldn't know about Crossfire Hurricane, about the Russia hoax, the Steele dossier. They unveiled it, and it's really because of Kash's eyes, and he's a humble guy. He won't say it's solely him, but in so many ways, because of his expertise, he saw what came across their desk, and he said, Devin, look what's going on here. And then that launched the realization of knowing that the weaponization of the intelligence agency against our president had happened. Of course, you might have seen Lee Smith's The Plot Against the President, a wonderful documentary as well with cash in that. So really disturbing to see that would happen. And of all people, Chuck Schumer, the minority leader in the Senate, actually said before President Trump took office, the intelligence community has 6 ways from Sunday in getting you if they want you.
Exactly. So we're looking forward to seeing Kash Patel to that top position there of the FBI as we continue to see the wine for the right side on the screen there. Always good to show the various situations there. What's that, producer? Okay, we're going to have to go to a commercial break. We'll be right back.
I'm excited to announce that we're having our first ever mega sale on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save over 50% on this season's flannel sheets. Queen size only $59.98. Kings only $69.98. They sell out fast every year, so order now. Save 20% on our brand new My Crosses. They're designed in the likeness of the one I've worn every day for over 20 years. They come in men's and women's, and they're made right here in the USA. Get our 2025 6-piece My Towel sets for only $29.98. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. And our best-selling standard My Pillows, just $14.98. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our first ever mega sale. But wait, remember that $75 free shipping rule? Well, that ship is sailed because right now, every order ships absolutely free.
Parents, do your kids know what courage really means? It's about standing up for America even when there's a target on your back. That's why Mike Huckabee's team created the Kids Guide to the Courage of the President. This important guide tells kids everything they need to know about President Trump's unwavering courage, and you can get it for free. With your free order, you'll receive free bonus gifts, including the Kids Guide to President Trump and a Christmas ornament commemorating Trump's call for us to fight. Get it all for free at freetrumpbook.com. That's freetrumpbook.com.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First news. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Welcome back live here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. I'm Matthew Alvarez alongside Robert McNeely. Thank you guys so much for streaming in as we will go over a lot of the highlights of the first month of President Trump's second administration. There's some information out there that the White House has actually sent out to various media outlets, including us. We'll go over that in just a minute. We're going to also show some of the southern border video that is great to see our Marines down there shoring up the wall along the southern border.
Yes, this has been an incredible operation. We know that 87% of the border is fully secure. What's great about knowing this is Caroline Leavitt of the White House, the press secretary, puts out a MAGA minute. So if you're following on Instagram or any of the White House official accounts through social media, you'll catch this video usually on a late Friday or even a Saturday every week or two, and they'll give you exact updates of what's happening. But it's the Army Corps of Engineers, it's Marines right on the border with the assistance on the other side of the wall, 10,000 Mexican troops that Claudia Sheinbaum, the Mexican president, put up there to make sure these cartels no longer have the influence and power they do on the border. So within the matter of 1 month, less than 1 month, President Trump, with partners in North America, making America safe again, calling these organizations foreign terrorist organizations as well. So I mean, this designation is huge.
Oh, it's so huge. The drug cartels are now listed as a terrorist organization, especially with the illegal aliens that have come through, some that are criminals. Then on top of that, all the fentanyl. So yeah, it's a big step. Also, the border czar, speaking of the border there, Tom Homan said in the last 24 hours, the U.S. Border Patrol has encountered a total of 229 aliens across the entire southwest border. That is down from a high of over 11,000 a day under Biden. So let's stop there. Illegal aliens, 229 in the past 24 hours. That is down from 11,000 under Biden.
Wow. I mean, it's remarkable. So you look back at Alejandro Mayorkas and the former president. Either they were completely incompetent or they weren't telling the truth on how the executive can enforce the laws and the border, because why would it change so quickly?
Exactly.
You have people actually doing their job and their constitutional authority.
Exactly. The quote continues by the border czar saying, "I started as a Border Patrol agent in 1984 and don't remember the numbers ever being that low. President Trump promised a secure border and he is delivering." So we're seeing that. Not only we're seeing it from the Department of Defense video of the Marines, of Army, National Guard, the Texas State Border Patrol, all shoring up that border, but then you're actually seeing the receipts, the numbers.
Right.
11,000 down to 229 in the past 24 hours.
So it really, the results speak for themselves, and it's great to see people like Tom Homan, Kristi Noem, all orchestrating literally on the ground with their troops and with their partners, whether that be at ICE or Border Patrol or the military, in order to secure this country. And we know we have to do this because of the preventable crime that took place in the last 4 years and people losing their lives due to illegal migrant crime. And so you have people like, of course, Laken Riley. You think of Jocelyn Nungary. What about Rachel Morin, 37 years old, a beautiful woman, 5 children, and the same fate as Laken, out for a jog in the afternoon. No woman should have to fear being in a clear area going for a jog and then not coming back home to their families. It's
Exactly.
It's just amazing.
Well, that's what's great about what's happening now is the law and order has stepped up to a new level. Our military, in conjunction with local, state, county police. I mean, I remember interviewing a sheriff out of Florida in St. Port Lucie County, Mr. Pearson, Keith Pearson there. He and his deputies would actually assist with Coast Guard and other border protection agents in cutting down on the amount of illegal aliens coming to ashore.
Right, no, it makes sense. I mean, there's people that these sheriffs and these law enforcement agents were literally handcuffed, and no pun intended, but they could not do their jobs. So they had to look locally, what could we do to make a difference? And many of them actually telling, governors and ultimately the president in the last administration, I need the resources in order to do my job. So we're grateful for those sheriffs who put up with this for the last 4 years. I think of Pinal County in Arizona, what they had to do, Cochise County as well, in order to secure the border there, because people's lives literally are at stake. And it's hard to imagine, but living along that border, it's tougher. You're in desert areas. It's very hot, and it's hard to live in those climates. But some people have been living there for generations. You have ranchers and farmers who literally had to fight off cartels on the border. These are people who are coordinated. They're ruthless. They don't care about human life and will do whatever it takes in order to make a dollar. So we've left American citizens to fend for themselves. But that changes ever since President Trump took that oth of office.
It's so true. And that was January 20th. It feels like it was 3 years ago, but the amount of work that's been done has been at a historic speed as we've been seeing. That Trump effect at play, not only in domestic policy, but also international policy. We'll get to that point in just a second. We do have to tell you about Tax Network USA. Of course, 800-357-1415 is the number you see on your screen there. Of course, if you just give them a call, I like that sometimes you got to talk it out a little bit. Like, hey, so tell me about this, this, and this, right? But those of you that like to go on the internet as well, tnusa.com/RSBN.
And these are experts. They are patriots. They believe in what we believe in here in the network. And it's all about making America financially healthy again. So protect yourself from the IRS. Settle those back taxes now. And we're less than 2 months away from that pesky tax deadline, April 15th.
Exactly. 800-357-1415. Shifting over to making America healthy again, one step at a time. This product will help you do it. Brightcore. All you have to do is go to mybrightcore.com/RSBN. If you purchase 2 Kimchi One products, you get one free. Kimchi's all about this probiotic that really helps with gut health, isn't it?
Yes, and I am taking it myself. I really enjoy this. You can call 888-722-0936. It's 888-722-0936, made in the USA. And this is the stuff you need really to function at a high level, whether it's probiotics, prebiotics. This has that in there. And Kimchi One, made by Brightcore in the United States, so you don't have to worry about it coming from a place like China. So it's really good to have it made domestically here at home.
And there it is, mybrightcore.com/RSBN. Go ahead and check it out. And if you buy 2, you get 1 free. Pretty good deal right there for a great product as well. 12:24 Eastern. We're about 5 or 6 minutes away from the great John Strand, who will join us. He's with American Frontline Doctors, also a J6er that served 366 days behind bars. He was in there for 4 months where it was just solitary confinement. He was a nonviolent offender, and the charges were dropped. So it's going to be great to hear from him once again, just to go over what his thoughts are on President Trump's first month in office. We'll also have more interviews throughout the broadcast discussing various topics. Now, let's go on. We talked about Kash Patel, of course. He needs to be confirmed yet as the FBI director. The Secretary for Commerce, Howard Lutnick. You know, President Trump bringing New York City right in there to the Washington, D.C. area.
Right, and Howard's someone who has been through, personal trauma. If you remember, this company, arguably more than any other one, was demolished, hit the hardest with loss of life during 9/11, and that really affected Howard, leading that wonderful company. But now he has really turned to public service with helping President Trump. He knows money. He knows the economy. As President Trump said, going back to the 1980s, remember his interview with Oprah Winfrey, won't it be nice to have someone who knows something about money who can actually run this country? Howard's one of those people, and that cloture vote is scheduled for tomorrow. So again, roughly a vote of 3 different series. It comes out of committee, then it goes to the whole of the Senate. There's then further debate. Once that cloture vote happens, it means we end debate, we move to a final floor vote, and then it would be very likely to see Howard move forward in this. I think he's been able to work really well with both sides of the aisle. I do love as well in the last week how he's been at President Trump's side, even in the Oval Office, with Sean Duffy and Doug Burgum and Chris Wright, some of the other secretaries already approved within the cabinet. So President Trump has said, he's getting to work already, and Howard's going to be an expert at that department.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing him as the Secretary for Commerce. And to your point, seeing Elon there the other day with Doge, President Trump is being the most transparent president of all time. He's done more in these 3-4 weeks than we've seen in any other real administration has done in 4 years,
right.
Other than his administration as the 45th president. So he is working at a fast pace, and it's fun to cover it, to be honest with you. The U.S. ambassador to the UN, Elise Stefanik, is also, we're waiting that to happen for her. And of course, a staunch MAGA supporter and someone that is someone that represents the people from the core.
Right, and I like to give credit where credit's due. Nikki Haley was an extraordinary UN ambassador. I'm not sure why she broke her promise and decided to run for president. Everyone has personal ambition. This town creates that in Washington, D.C., but she almost became an apologist for the Bush nation-building years and the Barack Obama nation-building 2.0 of the George W. Bush administration, when Nikki was actually able to really bring that peace through strength mantra to the United Nations. I think Elise Stefanik will be even better, even stronger. And what's funny about some of these countries, they don't care to listen to strong women like Elise Stefanik. I remember the far left. Remember our friend Mark Cuban mentioning that President Trump doesn't surround himself with smart and strong women. I think that's so to the contrary of what is true, given, think of Pam Bondi, think of Caroline Levitt, think of Elise Stefanik, who has fought for true women's rights in Congress and for people to persevere and live according to our nation's laws and the rule of order. So I'm excited to see Elise on an international stage.
Speaking of strong and great women, Linda McMahon, the Secretary of Education, looking forward to seeing that confirmation as well, as she works to bring education to a much better level than it is now, and back to the state. So we'll follow a lot of these confirmation hearings and also when they're sworn in. All of it brought to you by Right Now here at Right Side Broadcasting Network at the bottom of the hour from freetrumpbook.com. Now we're talking about somebody else that's already been, appointed as a U.S. ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee. FreeTrumpBook.com. Always good to have that context for our youth, but also really for anyone that just needs a refresher on what we're all about here in this country.
Oh, yes. And if you're already starting on your Christmas gift shopping, why not get a free couple of gifts here? The 2 guides and a Christmas ornament as your special if you sign up today. FreeTrumpBook.com. The Kid's Guide to the Courage of the President and the Kid's Guide to President Trump. So this goes over not only what took place on the last campaign, but why President Trump ran in the first place and his goals to make America healthy again and strong again and ultimately great again. So FreeTrumpBook.com, a great guide, even a nice guide for those neighbors in your life that might have their head in the sand.
Exactly. So FreeTrumpBook.com. You get that book right there to you. And then, of course, there's a Christmas ornament. I know we're several months away, but you know what? Hey, it's always good to prepare for a great holiday. 12:29, bottom of the hour here, getting ready to be joined by John Strand. This guy is remarkable, in my opinion. He's somebody that is so well-spoken for America first and commentary for truth, And
Right.
that's what I like about him, too, is because he's on board with the true narrative, what's going on here, the common sense of our country, the Constitution, and keeping it simple. Like when people try and confuse you with so many words and it doesn't even make sense,
right?
That's where a lot of the false narrative lies.
Well, and what reminds me of his testimony, it's very similar to Paul in the Bible. Many of these letters you see to other churches, to other communities throughout the world in his era, he's actually writing those letters while in prison. And so saying, have hope, look to the Lord, et cetera, et cetera. That's all while he's in prison. I think most of us would not have as much hope. And we know with Mr. Strand, the optimism he had, the love and the fidelity of the Constitution, he chose not to plead guilty when offered a plea deal because he said, I was innocent. And the courage in that alone is something that's beyond just solely human power. It's something that goes beyond what you could do just on your own. So it's always a pleasure to have him on to really get in depth on what's happening and what he continues to fight for in the legal system.
And then a bit later, Katie Zakaria from California, right? The
Yes.
great political commentator that's on the right side of history as well.
Yeah, she's outstanding. A Republican strategist who really knows inside and outside the Beltway and will give us some commentary on what she thinks has been the strong points in this first month of this new administration.
Exactly. So it's 12:31. I'm getting a message right now from John, so we'll see if he's going to join us here live on Right Side Broadcasting Network. As we await that, let's move on to some of the other confirmations that are coming up. All right. So we have the Small Business Administrator, Kelly Loeffler, Lori Chavez DeReamer from Secretary of Labor, and also the U.S. Trade Representative Jamison Greer. So let's go ahead and talk about the SBA a little bit.
Yeah, so Kelly Loeffler, an outstanding pick for SBA. Like Minda McMahon, she wants to not only limit this, potentially end this SBA and bring it back to the states. So really using the 10th Amendment to infuse federalism into a bloated bureaucracy. So it's exciting to see her. She's an expert in her field, someone well respected in Atlanta and Greater Georgia as well. In fact, she had a wonderful organization, the Greater Georgia Group, that helped get Republicans elected throughout the state. Of course, she herself, a former senator appointed by Governor Brian Kemp. So someone who is an absolute rock star in conservative circles.
Exactly, and we're seeing a lot of rock stars coming up at CPAC later this week as Robert and our crew, Ashley Brassfield and Christina Loren, will be there at CPAC starting, it's on Wednesday, correct?
It's on Wednesday and goes through Saturday. So we'll be flying in on Wednesday as well, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, full coverage. Looking forward to being with all of you Patriots who are in attendance, and we'll do our live shows there on Media Row. So come by and say hi.
Exactly. So there will be a live stream to all CPAC coverage. We'll have another live stream if needed when it comes to anything inside the Beltway in Washington, D.C. You guys will be just right outside the Beltway.
Right, exactly.
in National Harbor, Maryland. So looking forward to a lot of coverage coming up this week. And speaking of that coverage, so President Trump is at the Winter White House today, tomorrow, and I believe Wednesday, and then he will be headed to CPAC. Do you know what day he's speaking at this point?
I don't know at the moment, but I'll keep watching the schedule to see if we get some clarity on that.
Okay, so we'll be seeing President Trump speak at CPAC. And if he has any other press conferences from maybe Mar-a-Lago, maybe tomorrow or this week, we'll have that here for you on RSBN Live as we continue to cover wall to wall this 47th presidency, but also America First, breaking news, and other stories that are happening out there in the world. So again, 12:33 right now. Okay, we covered the 7 great folks that were looking forward to being at their positions. So that means if these 7, Kash Patel, Howard Lutnick, Elise Stefanik, Linda McMahon, Lori Chavez-DeRemer, Kelly Loeffler, and Jamieson Greer are all confirmed, then President Trump has a 100% score of everybody has been pushed through and put to their posts.
Oh, yes. And it's actually come to a surprise for me. I thought Democrats would put more of a wall, if you will, no pun intended, against these nominees. Now, some had it harder than others. We had Pete Hegseth, Pam Bondi, Tulsi Gabbard, RFK. Delays were happening, and close, of course, most close votes with those compared to others. Marco Rubio, for example, 99-0. It seems to be as if there's kind of like once you're in the Senate, maybe they get to know you better. Maybe that's the way to break down communications and dialogue between Republicans and Democrats, because he was unanimous support.
Exactly. So it's great to see that happening at historic speed from the White House. We'll be getting to some other headlines that we're following from around the country in just a minute. It's 12:34 Eastern Time. Let's go live right now to John Strand, of course, with America First, or America Frontline Doctors. John, thanks so much for joining us on Right Side Broadcasting Network.
Absolutely, gentlemen. Thank you for having me.
Definitely. Your thoughts, man. I mean, it's been a month of greatness that we've seen from President Trump. I mean, where do you want to start?
Man, it has been fast and furious, right? President Trump has jumped out of the gate, delivering on his promises made, promises kept. And it's not just a slogan. He's putting it into action. He's walking the talk. So it's really amazing to see. Immediately right out of the gate, he has taken a number of measures and aggressive action to secure our border. Without borders, you don't have a country. Illegal immigration has cost U.S. taxpayers $150 billion a year in social services and lost wages. We're hemorrhaging as a country in so many ways. And so President Trump was, the emergency doctor to close those wounds and stabilize the patient. So I think that's what's happening right now. It needs to continue to happen. But we see him making those moves. And with Doge, again, all of this yelling and screaming and whining from the establishment, from the deep state elements that, of course, have been exploiting the American taxpayer for decades and decades and maybe longer. It's over. It needs to end. And it's meeting a lot of resistance, which is not surprising, but it's probably the most important thing President Trump could do, along with protecting free speech, which he wrote an executive order along those lines as well. That's, of course, critical. Vice President J.D. Vance gave a historic and very powerful speech at the Munich Security Conference recently, where essentially he made the case that free speech is essential for freedom, and that democracy requires that you respect the views of the populace. And for some reason, this was controversial and caused people to lose their minds. You can see both President Trump and his excellent VP selection, J.D. Vance, are returning to classic constitutional governance. It's long overdue, and it's really amazing to see, and we need to keep the pedal to the metal.
John, the temptation of things going well so soon is that the average citizen might sit back and say, oh, it's all solved. Now I can wash my hands of this. We're good to go. How would you encourage those to remain involved? And where can they continue to advocate for those like you who suffered at the hands of the deep state and the bloated bureaucracy? Is there a way to remain in the fight, not only in the coming year, but also for the next few years down the road? Because we know that the globalists won't stop in order to complete their agenda.
You're absolutely right. Thanks for asking that question. So I was a political hostage, as some of you may know. I served in prison unjustly as part of the J6 witch hunt, spent a year in prison, and I wrote a book while I was there. It's called Patriot Plea. And this was what I thought about and learned through the course of suffering at the hands of a weaponized justice system, and also just being an American citizen that has been fighting to reclaim our freedoms and a return to the constitutional governance that I mentioned. I've been in this fight since the COVID lockdowns 4 years ago. So the book Patriot Plea, you can register at johnstrand.com to get that book and read it. And I would urge people to do that. But I'll give you the quick summary of what the concept is. And that is, it was very important for us to elect President Trump so he could return to constitutional governance. And that's what he's been doing. But like you said, we have this temptation to take it easy and think he's got it. Absolutely not. What is constitutional governance? Essentially, at its heart, it's a return to a structure that recognizes and protects the sacred, divine rights of every human to make decisions for themselves. And when people talk about democracy, it's supposed to mean a government by a consent of the governed. But ultimately, constitutional governance means that we are all involved in our government. We are all involved in leading and guiding and directing our own lives and our own futures. So you can't sit back and think that President Trump or any other person has it. You have an innate responsibility, a duty to yourself and to your country that you must step up and commit to engaging in. This is our purpose as humans. So we are actually far more happy and prosperous and productive when we understand we all have a purpose, we all have a role to play, and we commit to engaging in that. So there's huge opportunity, there's huge need. Each and every one of us can be doing those various things. One particular suggestion related to the J6 witch hunt. Thank goodness President Trump delivered as he needed to, but the work is far from over. The damage to those 1,600 plus people and their families is catastrophic. So American citizens can help us by joining wearej6.com. Go to wearej6.com, wearej6.com. Register as an advocate to support the move for restorative justice. Of course, this is going to help the victims, but it's also going to help us advance initiatives to restore accountability to government, which every American needs. It's something that President Trump, of course, is starting to work on, but we all need to back him up.
And speaking of advancement, we're looking forward to seeing Kash Patel as the director of the FBI. I want to get your take on that in just a second. The other day, President Trump was getting deplaning from the U.S. Marine One, the helicopter, of course, at Joint Base Andrews. He shook the Marine's hand to his right. He saluted people. I mean, he was just being the guy that he is, right? And I put on Truth Social, I said, this is the George Washington of our time. And I've received, a decent amount of love on that post there. Do you agree that President Trump is the George Washington of our time, Thomas Jefferson, Abe Lincoln, and on? I mean, does he not have great parts of all of those presidents?
Yeah, I actually totally agree, Matthew. I think that's a well said statement. I think he is the George Washington of our time, particularly. George Washington, of course, put his life on the line, sacrificed his fortune, his reputation, his sacred honor, but his blood. He risked all of that to lead the charge, take the incoming bullets when he was leading the militia. So President Trump has obviously done some of those things and really just represents the strength, the bravery, the resolve to understand what needs to be done and to lead the way. And so President Trump has given us a lot of courage and encouragement, which is great. But yeah, Kash Patel, I think, is a fantastic choice. Kash Patel has also been very clear about supporting constitutional governance, accountability, upholding true and proper equal application of the rule of law. It's what our country is built on. And Kash Patel is not afraid to dig into corners of corruption and expose what has been going on in our government that is illegal, improper, unethical, and otherwise unacceptable. So we need to hold to true standards. That's going to require courage and grit. Kash Patel certainly has that, along with clear expertise and a lot of qualifications that suit him to be an excellent choice for that position. So we need to urge the Senate to not delay any further. There's been too much delay. We need Kash Patel in there to get law and order restored.
It's interesting too, John. Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr., traditional Democrats who left the party, but they had the most opposition from the Democrat Party. Is there a way that traditional liberals maybe can message and somehow reclaim what was their party, a party that was for the working class at one point, was for those who were downtrodden, who did not necessarily have the connections in Washington, D.C.? I mean, if you look to 1828 in history, that's why the Jacksonian movement began. It was against people like John Quincy Adams, the Northeast Republicans, who were considered the ones who were very involved in the banking system and the federal movement to really, I guess, consolidate power into one group of people. So Andrew Jackson not being a fan of that. How do traditional liberals perhaps reclaim what was once their party?
Well, I think it's an excellent question. I think the current state of the Democrat Party is a terrible one, and they no longer represent the working class. And I think for decades, really going back to Lyndon Baines Johnson and the Great Society Project, where he used the concept of the Democrat Party and that sentiment of caring for the common man, for protecting and advocating for the working class, but he exploited it. And I think many Democrats have continued to do that, Republicans as well. Really, to me, this highlights the fact that Republican versus Democrat is really a false dichotomy. It's intentionally confusing, and it's distracting us from the real issues at play and the real value questions. So to me, it's not Republican or Democrat. It's freedom and liberty versus tyranny, ultimately. And it's a priority from my perspective on the rights of the individual. And so traditional liberals, they call them liberal because it comes from the root word liberty or freedom to have your own thoughts, to pursue your own choices. And certainly as Republicans or, MAGA conservatives or whatever term you want to use, constitutionalists, we certainly also respect and advocate for freedom and liberty. But we want to do that with truth and transparency. And we want to be cognizant of those who would use sentiments like protecting and advocating for the working class dishonestly to exploit them. And there's been an immense amount of exploitation of the working class and really the American citizen in general to serve established, entrenched corporate interests that we seemingly have no way to hold accountable, to remove, to reform. And of course, that's what DOGE is really about. I like to call it DOGE, direct observation of government exploitation. That's what DOGE really means, and that's what they're doing. They're showcasing, in many ways for the first time, to the broader public to see this is what your government has been doing for quite a long time. And in many cases, it's obviously insane, reckless, very destructive to the country and certainly to the common man, the working man, and the working class. And so those are values we need to return to. And whether it's Republican, Democrat, liberal, progressive, or otherwise, I think we just want to remember what the terms actually mean and what our values truly are.
Exactly. Well said. Also, it's interesting, as soon as DOGE is doing what they're doing, showing all of these expenditures and all this waste, fraud, and abuse out there, you know what the left-wing media does and some of the Democrat leadership? They cry constitutional crisis when we know what the constitutional crisis was the fork in the road that we faced on November 5th.
Right. Absolutely. And now that President Trump has initiated some of these incredibly important actions, we see the rogue third branch interfering with Article 2 authority and Article 2 plenary power. So this is a constitutional crisis. Of course, our Constitution was set with separate branches of government to provide checks and balances. But it's clearly inappropriate for a single judge somewhere to say, oh, I'm a judge, so I'm going to say you can't exercise your Article 2 powers as delineated in the Constitution. I mean, that's a serious issue. So we need to address that specific issue, but we also need to recognize that over time, our judiciary has devolved. There's just a lot of activism and honestly corruption in our judiciary, and they're isolated from accountability more so than any other public figure. And I think that's becoming problematic. So that's something else we need to look at. Elon Musk has called strongly for impeachment of judges. I've been calling for this for some time. I'm glad to see someone like Elon trumpeting it where no one can miss the note. And it's really important that we consider that, as well as just instilling an expectation and a culture of accountability in government generally and in the judiciary specifically.
I just wanted to jump in again and talk about this constitutional crisis messaging that we see by the left wing, don't we?
I mean, it's constant, and it's always the fear and the end of times, if you will. I think they're really struggling with. I mean, they try to break into the Department of Education. They try to really throw spaghetti against the wall to see what sticks, because I think the end game is they want power. They want to consolidate money, and they want to put themselves first rather than the American people. And I think we're seeing that play out.
Exactly. For those of you just joining us right now, this is John Strand from America Frontline Doctors. Let's hold you on the line here live with us for a little bit longer, because at the end of the day, someone like you that has dealt with being a political prisoner for our country, back to the J6 choir and the songs that were played at the rallies, on and on and on. I mean, It's either straight up truth or a lie, and we know that J6 from the left was a big lie. There was no insurrection that happened at the Capitol that day. Those are the facts. And the only people that said insurrection are the same people that are calling it a constitutional crisis. Your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, no, I mean, there is an incredible amount of, I think, pretty obvious deception and exploitation that is being driven by the modern Democrat Party. And I want to be clear, that's not to say I advocate or consider the Republican Party perfect or even necessarily admirable many times. I have my own issues with that party as well. But the current Democrat Party it's a disaster, just to be frank, regardless of what perspective you come from. It's really operating on a lot of fear, as you mentioned, and fostering of division and hatred. It's destructive. It's not helpful. And again, it's dishonest. So a specific example of that, of course, is January 6th. In my book, Patriot Plea, I call January 6th the greatest American lie ever sold. And I detail that in terms of what was done over the course of 4 years to build this narrative, supporting it with the legacy media, I like to call them lunacy media, which is largely controlled by Democrat Party related interests more so than other things. But it's government involved and controlled in many ways. You know, the Twitter files showed us a lot of those revelations. And so the building of this narrative in a false manner, destroyed innocent people, but it served a political agenda, weaponized government. So weaponized government is not partisan. It will eventually turn its sights on all involved, as Marxist-driven communist energies always do, cannibalize and eat their own. So it's in a very dark place, in my view, the Democrat Party, and just the deception, the continual tactics to stoke fear and division. You know, they're constantly screaming about racism, and they're creating manufactured racism to serve their agenda. You know, that's shameful. We understand that racism is something that has existed at times in this country, continues to exist because it's part of the human condition. That will never change. But as Americans, we understand what our values are, what our aim is. Our aim is towards liberty and justice for all, based on the truth that we are one nation under God. And those are fundamental truths that we often lose sight of. And then I think dishonest factions in our political discourse are constantly misrepresenting or exploiting, in other words, in order to confuse people, make them fearful, because fearful people are easier to control. So we want to continue to pursue enlightenment, education, opening our own minds to understand what's actually going on out there, and deciding what we truly believe in. That's a North Star you need to fix your course of action.
Yeah, 100%. And the Trump effect that we're seeing now is very positive and very great for our country. We're seeing the cause and effect, and we all embrace it. But still, to keep in the back of our minds, you know, we hope and pray for the best, but you have to plan for the worst still, just as a balanced effort moving forward. So finally, John, your thoughts just in sense of Democrats and liberals that are the everyday citizens of this country. Obviously, President Trump is the president over all people of this nation. You know, when we talk about Democrats like this, I'm thinking of Democrat leadership in the swamp, and I'm also thinking of the mainstream media. I'm not really thinking of a Democrat that's, just living their lives and doing their thing. You know what I mean? It's not against the people of this country at all. It is us talking about this is just really want to correct the narrative of those few Marxists and communists and technocrat type people that want to control the free world.
Absolutely. We're not really we're certain. As you mentioned, we are appealing to every American, all citizens. We do believe in both diversity and unity. America has an incredible diversity in its population and its citizenry, but we are unified by our common core values, yes, liberty and justice for all, one nation under God. I mean, that really does summarize the core values. And of course, the Declaration of Independence specifying how we want equal dignity and opportunity for every citizen as much as we possibly can provide for that. But it's a merit-based idea. So when you see people claiming to advocate or protect the working class or weaker people, or however that's phrased, you want to be careful that they're not using that as a tool and exploiting them. You want to see that people are advocating for the freedom and dignity and the autonomy of each individual citizen to have an opportunity for the American dream based on their own merit and based on equality of the dignity of every person.
John Strand with American Frontline Doctors. Patriot Plea is the book. Sir, thank you again for joining us on RSBN Live.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me on, and may God continue to bless the United States of America. God bless you guys.
God bless you. Your thoughts, Robert? I mean, what else is there to say?
Right. Amen, amen, amen. I mean, a gentleman of the highest order and someone who really intrinsically knows what can take place when the Constitution is not adhered to, in his own imprisonment, in his own struggle for American liberty. And that's why I like to call these J6ers. I mean, in a lot of ways, they can really harken back to our first colonialists, those patriots who stood up against an evil empire. And we've had these challenges throughout our history, whether it be foreign or domestic. And right now, sadly, to John's point, many in domestic America who would seek to upend the Constitution. And we, the people, are taking on these globalist, bureaucratic individuals, the deep state, and we did it peacefully and patriotically with a vote.
Exactly.
So really great to see that the J6 folks are free and that those are, there's still some legal proceedings and struggles. So we are J6.com there. As Mr. Strand mentioned, you could find a way to help out those political prisoners.
So through God and grit, that's how John made it through. On a previous interview, we were talking about that, and that having God and having grit is a great thing. Mm-hmm. But of course, those are some of the hardest times of a life right there.
Right.
But thank God that we have a cabinet that President Trump has put into place here that are for our country and for the people and for law and order and for freedom and all of that. So I know that was a tougher subject to cover on a holiday, but at the end of the day, still keeping sober-minded when it comes to the balance of, hey, we love the Trump effect, and it's happening, and great things are happening, but we also remember what the left-wing leadership could do when they have that kind of power.
Oh, yes, it's a progressive movement, and I love how John took us through that history, especially the New Deal under LBJ and how that changed modern American politics.
Exactly. It is the top of the hour, almost, about 5 minutes away. Of course, happy President's Day to you. So glad you're joining us here live. If you caught us at the beginning of the broadcast, Robert was sporting the Jim Jordan look without the suit because it's Jim Jordan's birthday. So happy birthday to the congressman from Ohio. And also great to celebrate President's Day here. There are only a few presidents that I'm thinking of that I'm actually celebrating today, if you know what I mean. But still, happy President's Day to you.
Same.
Let's go to PatriotAddictDeals.com. There's so many awesome products on Patriot Addict Deals. One of them is the Trump Combat Knife. Go to the QR code. You can get right to the website, or just go to PatriotAddictDeals.com. If you like 30% off that product there, just go to type in RSBN 30. Always good. Great site right there.
And this site, they will lose some of these great, memorable things that you could have in your MAGA office or your man cave. And once they're gone, they're gone. So it's good to get them now before, hopefully they'll come back. But I've purchased a few great items through PatriotAddictDeals.com. You can't find them on the website anymore. So I'd get my Trump Combat Knife today. And what a great day to celebrate President Trump on President's Day. And of course, this holiday set aside for Abraham Lincoln and George Washington's birthdays of February 12th and 22nd, respectively. But why not celebrate our current commander-in-chief as well with the Trump Combat Knife?
Exactly. And how about that mugshot photo that is outside, I believe, the Oval Office that he has there in Washington, D.C.? President Trump doesn't forget what he's gone through to get to this point. And we're so glad that we have someone that is a common sense people's president that resides at that 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Yes, it's long overdue, and we saw the last 4 years how people struggled because of the bureaucratic governance of the Biden administration, but thank God that common sense has returned to the people's house.
Exactly. All right, so shifting gears, no pun intended, real quick to talk about the Daytona 500, a Chevrolet manufacturer. That was the car that won yesterday. Those of you voting on the Ford and Chevy, well, they said that Chevy is better than Ford. Robert and I were Ford fans, but that's all right. I mean, a lot of great cars out there. President Trump, of course, being there yesterday, quite the scene there.
Oh, yes. Really wonderful to catch all of the imagery and the pageantry behind the great American race, and the Beast taking 2 laps around at Daytona 500. And wonderful to hear his many interviews and the commentators, how thrilled they were to see Air Force One doing a flyover of that great stadium in Daytona. So something that is near and dear to many, especially in the Southeast. NASCAR, huge in this part of the country.
Definitely, and we may be replaying the motorcade drive around the Daytona 500 Speedway just yesterday. So we can play that for you most likely here on RSBN Live in the next little bit as we get ready to go to a commercial break, as it's the top of the hour, about 1 minute away from 1 o'clock Eastern Time. I'm Matthew Alvarez with Robert McNeely. We'll see you in just a second.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live Show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
Families across the nation have arrived at a heartbreaking crossroad to surrender their beloved animals at alarming rates due to inflation and soaring costs of living.
There are so many overcrowded shelters. So many dogs need a home, but it's all of us working together to solve this crisis.
This fight requires both doers and dollars. Join us at Big Dog Ranch Rescue. Please sign up today.
I'm excited to announce that we're having our first ever mega sale on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save over 50% on this season's flannel sheets. Queen size only $59.98. Kings only $69.98. They sell out fast every year, so order now. Save 20% on our brand new My Crosses. They're designed in the likeness of the one I've worn every day for over 20 years. They come in men's and women's, and they're made right here in the USA. Get our 2025 6-piece My Towel sets for only $29.98. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. And our best-selling standard My Pillows, just $14.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our first ever mega sale. But wait, remember that $75 free shipping rule? Well, that ship is sailed, because right now, every order ships absolutely free.
Parents, do your kids know what courage really means? It's about standing up for America even when there's a target on your back. That's why Mike Huckabee's team created the Kids Guide to the Courage of the President. This important guide tells kids everything they need to know about President Trump's unwavering courage, and you can get it for free. With your free order, you'll receive free bonus gifts, including the Kids Guide to President Trump and a Christmas ornament commemorating Trump's call for us to fight. Get it all for free at freetrumpbook.com. That's freetrumpbook.com.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Good afternoon. Thanks so much for sticking with us here on RSBN Live. I'm Matthew Alvarez.
I'm Robert McNeely. Happy President's Day and happy birthday to Jim Jordan. What a warrior congressman who literally wrestles into competition, if you know why I'm saying that. He is a champion Big Ten wrestler, of course, graduating from the esteemed university, the University of Wisconsin at Madison.
Definitely. So also, happy President's Day to you, President Trump. The country, I believe, agrees with that 100%. At least the majority of the nation does. So happy that you are the president of this nation. It is 1:03 Eastern Time. Speaking of the president, he's spending part of the week at the Winter White House there in Florida, and then he'll shift over to CPAC, where Robert and Ashley Brassfield and Christina Loren will be live from CPAC in Maryland this coming week. Actually, it's this week. Today is Monday. So.
Today is Monday.
Also, quite awesome to see the president yesterday at the Daytona 500. Just a great time overall for our country.
What I liked about it, too, when he was interviewed by some of the sportscasters, he just said, look, you know, we're back. We're having a great time. That's why we're here. We're celebrating. Love that personalized jacket he had. That was cool. What a cool, almost like an Air Force One version of it. He had the seal of the president on the right-hand side, and then President Donald J. Trump in cursive over the official Daytona 500 patch there. So what a special, I'm sure that will be in the museum one day. Yeah,
that'll be cool to see that there. Also, this week, for those of you that love hockey like I do, Thursday night, the Team USA hockey team is playing part of this Four Nations face-off. So NHL, instead of having the All-Star game this break, it's called the Four Nations face-off. So it's Finland, Sweden, Canada, and the United States. The U.S. beat Canada the other day. So the game's going to be in Boston on Thursday night. I know Dan Scavino Jr. has to be a big hockey fan because I've seen him post a lot of hockey stuff over the past few years. But it's going to be quite awesome. So go Team USA Thursday night at 8 o'clock. They'll be playing the winner of various games tonight. USA is actually playing a game tonight as well, but they've already advanced because they've won more than everybody else.
Right.
So they're already playing on Thursday. By the way, if you were in at CPAC, buddy, I'd be like, come on, let's go to the sports bar and watch that.
Yeah, there's some great spots around here. I mean, Auburn, of course, being a great sports town. Hockey is a little bit less popular right in here, just given warmer weather and such. But, you know, what was great about yesterday, too, in the first 9 minutes, there were 3 fights. So if you weren't watching the U.S.-Canada game, they actually mentioned, please don't disrespect anyone's flag. Well, the Canadian fans were booing during our national anthem, and our boys took care of that. So a few fisticuffs and knocking down on the ice, a couple of, which is kind of fun. Hockey's such an interesting sport like that. You can actually get by with a fist fight, and then they shake hands, and they'll shake hands after the game.
Yeah.
But you don't mess with the United States, and we won 3-1. So there you go.
And those of you that are Pittsburgh Penguin fans, of course, you know, Sidney Crosby, great player. I think Sidney's one of the greatest of all time, but he's Canadian. Okay, cool. But when it comes down to it, let's see Team USA win this thing Thursday night. They do play tonight against, they already advanced to the Thursday night game. So, yeah, let's have fun and talk about that too this week as we cover CPAC this week, as we cover any America First news inside the Beltway and outside the D.C. Beltway as well. All right, so freedom and security are the cornerstones of the American way, of course. That's why we've partnered with this great company, Byrna. It's a company that embodies these values in Fort Wayne, Indiana. You see the alternative to deadly force, and it's proudly American. At the bottom, you see not classified as a firearm, no background checks, more than 25,000 five-star reviews. I heard there are more than 500,000 units sold in just the past 5 years of existence for Byrna.
Right.
And some law enforcement even has this. So, yeah, it's a great product.
Solves a lot of problems, and in certain jurisdictions, in certain states as well, you can be prosecuted for defending your own property. So, God forbid, someone breaks in the middle of the night and you have to use deadly force. You can then be prosecuted by maybe someone trying to make their name as a DA, as a state's attorney. Why not have a great thing that works that is an alternative to that deadly force? And we've shot this ourselves here just at the studio. It's quite effective. I mean,
it not in this actual room.
Not in the room, but because you don't want to do that because the tear gas and such.
But, yeah, we didn't shoot the tear gas. You're hilarious. There's the kinetic balls, though, that are there, are the ones that we're practicing, because there's this whole tent that you can target practice at. But at the end of the day, what we do know is that this group here, Byrna, they're passionate about the Second Amendment. It's not like they're anti-guns, but they also say, you know what, there's about 99% of the altercations that people face, according to law enforcement stats, you don't need an actual firearm. So this is a great way for truckers and others, going from state to state, you could have this in your glove compartment or in your middle console. And it is effective, easy to use, and most importantly, legal in all 50 states. It's a less lethal launcher. So there it is, Byrna.com. You can go to the website there, and if you go to Byrna.com/RSBN, you can get more information. And those of you out there that have heard of Byrna before, it's because it is a national brand. It is definitely one of the big brands out there. So we're taking a live look there at the White House, and hopefully you won't ever have to use it. And also, speaking of not having to use it, President Trump said the military, he wants to make it so great and so strong that he doesn't have to use it. That would be great to see. However, if you shift gears a bit to things like ISIS, I mean, he did have to, go with a surgical strike in Somalia the other weekend, but outside of that, we're just looking forward to seeing peace through strength for this country.
Oh, yes, and considering the weapons of war now are more powerful than they ever were, it really takes strength to negotiate the peace. And this was a goal of JFK and RFK Sr. and now RFK Jr. as well. They would also speak about what's truly hard. It's easy for anyone to fire a missile, but really to seek true peace between nations, that leaves a lasting legacy, and President Trump believes deeply in that.
He not only does he believe deeply in that, he is such a natural gifted talent of being able to pick up a phone, no matter who the person is on the other line. Can you believe it, guys? He went to North Korea. Right. He went across the DMZ. I mean, what? How do you do that? Well, you have somebody that has the skill set that he does. And you know what's great about the president, I think, is we're going to enjoy these 4 years. It's going to be great. We're going to cover it here at the network.
Right.
But the 4 years and beyond, now we have, the bar has been set for what we want as we the people in this country.
Yes, no
we
question.
We do want somebody that's an outsider, or somebody that is at least America first, or MAGA, in the sense of make America great again. It doesn't have to be just to President Trump because he's the leader of MAGA. Why not have, as we see the beautiful photos there, of President Trump there with George Washington in the back. Isn't that cool? And then kissing the flag and just a nice smile there. So happy President's Day from RSBN, President Trump. I mean, your thoughts about the first month of his presidency here as the 47th Commander-in-Chief. What is one or two things that sticks out the most to you of his accomplishments?
Well, I think first and foremost, those first two promises, securing the border, also making the cartel and Tren de Aragua and MS-13 foreign terrorist organizations. Those two moves alone have created new economic hope in this country and abroad. It's what had to be done first, and he's using his constitutional authorities. And the other aspect of this is how he has this precise strike at everything he wants to accomplish, because he's surrounded himself with experts. So 4 world leaders have now come to the White House: Japan, Israel, the Kingdom of Jordan, and also India, all together, and great relationships with these leaders that President Trump has, whether it's Ishiba, Netanyahu, of course, Abdullah II, and Modi of India. But I mean, my goodness, they've all come to talk about peace through strength, and specifically bilateral trade agreements that will secure those respective nations and ours as well with different investments. So those are probably the biggest highlights for me personally.
The wild thing is that the Trump effect really plays into the psyche of leaders across the world that are at least on the side of the people. Because you look at Nigel Farage, he is doing these speeches for Reform UK, and he's out there saying, we want to make Britain great again. Right. Or you have Hungary with Viktor Orban saying the same thing about Hungary. On and on and on, we see that people are getting hit by this, figuratively speaking, this wave of President Trump's greatness. But here's the thing. We always are saying how great President Trump is, and he is. But he is standing with the Constitution, with truth, with common sense, with God, who are higher than President Trump. Let's be honest. The truth, God, is higher than him. President Trump said it himself.
Oh, yeah, many times.
Remember, he said at that speech in North Carolina, he goes, he's like, someone said I'm the most famous person in the world. He goes, I know someone that's more famous than me. And he looked up and he goes, it's not even close. He said, Jesus Christ. So, I mean, those are the facts. And you're not going to hear that on mainstream media.
Right. You know, it's someone that I saw the comparison to Cyrus as well in the Bible, how the Persian king who helped Israel, you could even compare David, I personally believe, people who were chosen in the time to lead their people, President Trump is oddly similar in with the prophecies of coming in to have really a strong personality, but also to mandate peace, to mandate prosperity, to lead their people out of bondage. It's eerily reminiscent of what has been prophesied in biblical times and even leading up now into what may be the beginning of Revelation. I know there's a lot of debate over that, especially where you might attend church, and it's rightfully so to discuss these things. But if you look at salvation history, President Trump oddly aligning with a person who might be part of the greater plan.
Yeah, and so we're following it here live and in real time, and it's quite a time to be alive, as you guys know. It's quite the time in our country. Let's look at the picture again, Director, if we can, of the Happy President's Day from RSBN and the photo of the president, and also speaking there where you saw George Washington in the background in the portrait. Because the other day on Truth, I posted the George Washington of our time, and you see that bottom right photo. That's just iconic right there, isn't it?
No, it really is. And whoever took that picture, wow. I'm assuming the official White House press corps, but really an outstanding photo. And I think two people who share a lot in common in the sense that they did not hold political office prior to ascending to the presidency. Of course, gentlemen who really got to know culture, who were involved in their communities. President Washington, of course, being a military man, President Trump being a businessman, but literally jumping into the most important role thinkable in their times, leading their nations to prosperity. So I think the two men have lots in common, and two people we definitely needed in their respective times.
Exactly. So the greatness or the great things that GW, our first president, George Washington, did, the great things that Thomas Jefferson did, the great things that Abraham Lincoln did, right? President Trump has been able to learn from the history of these great moves of various presidents. How about President William McKinley with the tariffs? How about President Reagan with a number of great moves there too? So he's able to look at all this history and say what worked and what is also common sense and natural. Things that might be on the negative side of things of the past of our country, moving on from that. You know, it's something that we've healed from as a nation. We're moving forward. And it's just great to see President Trump doing great things for our country. Speaking of great things, MyPillow.com.
Yes, the mega deal. You have to take advantage of this amazing sale right now with over 2,000 products up to 80% off, but specifically the highlighted items. My Cross, save 30%. My Towels, a 6-pack for $29.98. How about those flannel sheets? So comfortable that can help you start off your day right. $44.98 respectively. 800-836-7566. That's the number for you. Once again, 800-836-7566. MyPillow.com/RSBN. And now we know there might be an open governor seat in Minnesota. I'm just saying, I think it would be great for a certain Mr. Mike Lindell to fill that, because we know Tim Walz now is looking to run for the U.S. Senate.
So Robert McNeely, an anchor here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and possibly the Public Information Officer Press Secretary for Mike Lindell out of Minnesota. That'll be a lot of flying from north to south.
I'm not moving to Minnesota. As much as I love that state, it's like a second home to me. As we covered last week, how near and dear the Mayo Clinic is, and so many great places to fish too. Talk about hockey. Lots of great hockey fans, and a shout out to Stillwater, Minnesota. Dear friend of mine who was working with me at Turning Point USA. That's his hometown. Beautiful town in the summertime, especially to visit. But let's get free speech and the Constitution, common sense back to Minnesota. So I'm just throwing it out there for a great sponsor here at the network, Mr. Mike Lindell, MyPillow.
Yeah, MyPillow.com/RSBN. It's 1:17 p.m. At about 2 o'clock, we'll be joined by Katie Zakaria, a political strategist out of California. Of course, she's joined the show here before. It's great to see people from all across the country, all walks of life, just joining us here at the network, because at the end of the day, we the people, a government of, by, and for the people. And we're going to stick to that. You know, that's what I like about it. Like, I'll be honest, you know, if you graduated from Harvard or Yale or MIT or you're a brilliant mind, great. I know I didn't graduate from there, but I can say this: I'm glad I can grab onto the simple things of the Constitution, love for God, love for the land, love for the country, and of course report, with research and all that here at the network. But it's just great to have that desire that you keep it simple, stupid, as they say, right?
Well, that's the sad thing about modern academia, right? It's this idea that they've been teaching this Marxist theory that America is bad, and nothing could be further from the truth. And I remember my time in college where I went toe-to-toe with professors, peacefully and patriotically, of course, debating these things, because at the end of the day, it just was not true. So we've seen that things, as I've observed Auburn here, it seems like that's not so common, the Marxist, theories, but something has definitely plagued academia in the last few years.
So all of those institutions, all of the parts of government, all of media and entertainment and big tech and blah, 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 all of it obviously has went woke, and there's a lot of corruption. So that's what we're seeing with this president, where he is uncovering the corruption. He sees Elon Musk doing great at Doge, and those 100 people he keeps referring to, bright minds that are taking care of that, And there's so many people in the cabinet that are great at their specific positions. I mean, the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, just crushing it on an interview just the other day, too.
Oh, yeah, and that was great to call out the media, too, because he said that was only half the story where he was being interviewed, which was true, and just to double down and hold media accountable as well. And then you, the viewer at home, if you're watching those networks on the weekend, and please do go and look at those and see what's actually happening, because you have a MAGA team in place that knows how to respond to it and say that's just not the truth. And before, it was almost this cordial nature of, they'll ask the question, Republicans will respond very pretty and be proper and not really ruffle the feathers. Not today, because these experts who are serving the country will make those promises and keep those promises, Marco Rubio being one of the best for that. And talk about a month for Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who's currently in Egypt as well. I mean, this guy's schedule is just as busy, if not slightly more busy, than President Trump.
Yeah, so he's traveling a lot. We saw the vice president at the Munich Security Conference just the other day. So we're seeing great things in our country. Now, there's one thing that we're seeing as well, with a number of headlines out there that I want to report, of course, in Kentucky. Over the weekend, terrible storms that hit the area, of course. At last check, 11 people lost their lives in the flooding in Kentucky. So we're keeping our eye on various stories around the country. And I was monitoring the storm that night on that radar scope app, and there were tornado warnings, there were flash flood warnings, and on. So obviously, thoughts and prayers with the people of Kentucky, as we also hopefully, in preventative measures, are able to have an app like Radar Scope, or really stay tuned to what's going on out there. And then also, on the other side of that, from the federal government, anytime there's a need that the state government needs help with, hopefully the federal government can obviously step in, which they have in various parts of the country.
President Trump examining that as he went to Western North Carolina, also to Pacific Palisades. If you caught our coverage of that roughly 3 weeks ago now, one of his first trips, if not his first trip, leaving the White House out west to go and survey all of the damage that took place. Of course, Vice President Vance in Virginia as well, to help out Governor Glenn Youngkin and those people on the ground, taking care of those who were truly left behind by the last administration. I mean, even the other night here, there was some storms Saturday that, the storms lead to that beautiful sunlight the next day, Sunday, Resurrection Day. But even at my own property, there was scattered furniture. I was really surprised by it, because it happened overnight, and I walked out there just to go to the gym, and I was like, oh goodness, I didn't realize it looked like someone just went through the whole place and just threw chairs everywhere. But that was, of course, from the storm the night before.
Yeah, exactly. And I have to figure out, and I haven't been in Alabama in the South for very, very long. It's been since I think it was June of 2024. So in the springtime, do you know, because I know you've been in Georgia for a few years,
right.
In the springtime, that's more of when the thunderstorms and tornadoes possibly happen, or I thought that was more of a summertime thing?
Seemingly. Now, Christina Loren, our resident meteorologist, probably knows better than we do on these regards, but Atlanta's interesting because it actually just sits outside of Dixie Alley. Sadly, we're in the middle of Dixie Alley, or the most eastern point of it in East Alabama, which arguably has some of those harsher storms, because you have that warm air coming up through the Gulf, mixed with a little bit of that cooling area that goes over Kentucky. That's probably why you had some of the more serious storms happening there. Of course, now scientifically too, there's seeding that's happening, there's testing that's happening that could be spurring these storms. Some argue about that. Again, not in meteorology. Christina knows more about this on the specifics, but right where we're living, springtime can be kind of those more aggressive storms as we're turning into that warmer weather coming off of the Gulf of America.
Exactly. The Gulf of America, great. We saw Ashley Brassfield, RSBN host there, live just the other day along the water there. And then also we're in touch with one of the businesses called Gulf of America Outfitters. And the guy runs a fishing charter business and has a lot of great gear as well. And he said he has a Starlink where he could possibly go out into the Gulf of America on the boat and do a live shot with us. Hopefully that'll come together.
Wonderful.
That'd be cool to see, right?
That'd be great.
So yeah, a lot of weather talk there. I think, so Robert would be a press secretary for Mike Lindell's gubernatorial run in Minnesota, an RSBN anchor, and now meteorology degree right here live on TV.
Well, fortunately, we're right by Auburn, so if I need that graduate degree, I can run over there.
There you go.
Well, if they'll accept me, you have to do that first.
Definitely. All right, let's go to one of our sponsors, and then we want to show you just a cool moment from the Daytona 500 yesterday. But let's go to Colonial Metals Group. Now, if you go to freegoldguide.com, you'll get this info kit, as there is an urgent warning right now for the retirement community. This is, even as President Trump, stands up to China, and we're told billionaires are fleeing Wall Street, including, as you see there, Warren Buffett. I mean, he dumped $133 billion the other day of stocks. So what we can do here is kind of get that anchor, of gold and silver through a tax-sheltered IRA, a 401k, and you can save you can also qualify for a free home safe and as much as $7,500 in free silver by just going to freegoldguide.com. Check it out first, and if there's something that you are interested in, definitely move forward with it.
Yes, look, 7,000%. That's the increase of gold from 1971 until 2024. It's never dipped. So it makes sense. Ever since we ended our gold standard credentials with the Nixon administration, put that petrodollar into place with Saudi Arabia, this has skyrocketed in worth. So it's definitely something to do, just to look at, no obligation. Just look at this free gold guide with patriots like Judge Jeanine Pirro and Larry Kudlow, who knows something about the economy. He helped spur those tax cuts back in the first administration just 7 or 8 years ago now. So it's a great company, and the great Paul Stone will probably be joining us soon for at least a couple of times before the end of the month to talk details on Colonial Metals.
Also, when it says gold and silver here, interestingly enough, speaking of gold, the Fort Knox there in Kentucky, right? There were some discussions of Doge probably auditing Fort Knox. That'd be kind of cool. I want to be on that story. I just want to see. I saw those gold bars. I watched these documentaries. $250,000. One gold bar, $250,000, one gold bar. And there's a bazillion of them in there. That's crazy.
Well, and Senator Rand Paul said that he wants to make sure there's still gold in there and that the deep state didn't empty it. So, I mean,
did he say that?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he's very,
great.
and I mean, it was somewhat comical, but also serious. That's a goal of his.
I get it, but that's funny though.
Right.
I mean, because, are you serious? That'd be crazy if we go in there and there's nothing. Oh man. Well, I mean, that's what's going on anyway right now with when we see Doge look at all of these various government expenditures. It's just the money is gone. There's $27 million to some ridiculous thing overseas, and that's our hard-earned taxpayer money. And that's just unbelievable. I know I'm preaching to the choir there. Let's go to RepublicanRed.com as well.
Yes, and when we open up that Fort Knox and all those gold bars are still there, might as well pop a bubbly to this great country and say thank you, God. Thank you for the MAGA movement and President Trump and everything that's worth celebrating in this great journey that is life. You go to RepublicanRed.com, code RSBN for $5 off of your order. And what's great about this generation, several generations now, family-run operation out of the central coast of California, not only expert winemakers, but also a portion of the proceeds goes to conservative and Republican things that are out there helping those for the upcoming elections as well. So the golden age of America, we have taken the House, the Senate, and put our champion back in the White House. Let's raise a glass to the MAGA movement and the American patriotism. The best is yet to come.
RepublicanRed.com. Use the RSBN promo code that you see there on your screen, and you'll get a percentage off. Great website, great sponsor here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's about the bottom of the hour. In about 30 minutes, we'll be joined by Katie Zakaria of California, a Republican strategist, but more, I would call it a conservative strategist. I mean, sometimes the Republican word, the Democrat word, you know, we've really seen what's happening out there. It's America first versus America last, or it's freedom versus tyranny, right? Or good versus evil. So it's better to kind of describe it more accurately, I guess.
Oh, yes. And you know, why not celebrate with, in case you missed the Daytona 500, the great American race. I don't know why you would have missed that, because a great celebration yesterday on Sunday. We actually have the lap of President Trump going around, so we'll send that now so you can view that.
And for those of you that remember yesterday, of course, a Chevrolet winning the Daytona 500. And for those of you that were watching our pre-presidential race coverage here, we were talking about who is better, Chevy or Ford. Are you a Chevy guy or a Ford guy? And so it looks like the final results are in. So let's share those real quick here. And then I want to get your take on them too, Robert, as we continue to talk about a number of America First news stories in just a second. So just yesterday, 793 people on my Truth Social at Matthew Alvarez. I said Ford or Chevy. 56.5% Chevy, 43.5% Ford. So Chevrolet wins the day yesterday. And your thoughts?
Oh, I mean, it's also a great American brand. So I need to stop making predictions on sports and cars here, because I tend to not really win the last couple of weeks.
That's funny.
But I've driven a Ford myself. Actually, it was my first car, and it's great to see that it's mostly being manufactured here in the United States again.
And that's a great point.
Been a major change, especially because that was the problem too, especially when I was in high school, early 2000s. When I first got my Ford truck, that was actually, I believe, manufactured in Mexico, and many of those plants actually failing as a result of NAFTA, or you have a lemon or two, and it would just be a headache. So
yeah, bring our manufacturing and keep them here in America. Not only for seeing them made in the USA is always a great thing to see, but also the jobs that can stay here, and also the communities that won't have to be affected via any kind of moving out of a factory to another country.
Right.
And just to finish up that thought real quick, I drove a Ford Thunderbird back in the day, 1988 Ford Thunderbird.
Right.
Kind of a cool car, so it was fun. I missed that car, and I'd like to get a truck someday. But anyway, let's go to Tax Network USA. Tax Network USA, 800-357-1415 is the number. You know, when people are dealing with any back taxes, that's got to be a very serious concern. Even though the last IRS under Biden, that would have been crazy. But even now, under President Trump, you still have to pay your taxes. Of course, it'd be great that if various taxes were abolished, of course. But still, right now, working with a group like this kind of gets that peace of mind.
Right. Oh, absolutely. And with April 15th right around the corner, make sure you settle your back taxes now. And we know with the IRS under Biden, over 80,000 new agents. President Trump said he might send some of them to the border to help the Army Corps of Engineers and our Marines for that final security down south. So that will be a great development. But regardless, call 800-357-1415. These Patriot experts really know how to handle these situations. Visit tnusa.com/RSBN. I mean, property taxes, state income taxes, federal income taxes, so much to deal with as we face that deadline. And sometimes people overpay, so they know how to handle this for you.
Governor Ron DeSantis out of Florida saying he wants to abolish the property tax. That just from last week, so we'll see what happens there. Let's go to Brightcore. So mybrightcore.com. Kimchi One is the product on the right side of your screen there. So a probiotic, really good for gut health, anti-aging properties, and also immune support there. All you have to do is go to mybrightcore.com/RSBN. Now, I know that you received this product. Did you go online or did you make the phone call?
No, I did go online, so it's straightforward there. Buy two, get one free. So visit mybrightcore.com/RSBN. If you have any questions, though, please feel free to call 888-722-0936. Really, all health starts in the gut. And this is something that, RFK Jr. is very intrigued with and wanting to help end the chronic disease epidemic in America. And a lot of that does begin right there. So with prebiotics, probiotics, great to do through Brightcore's kimchi made in the USA.
mybrightcore.com/RSBN is the website. Let's shift over to the southern border, something that we talk about a lot here at the network because, of course, that was the number one of the core promises from the RNC, from President Trump to the people, the 20 core promises. The first one was to seal the border. There it is right there. This video was from February 13th, so 4 days ago. You can see them putting up the metal wiring, to seal the border a bit more. But also, I'm looking forward to seeing the video as soon as we see it start to happen, of the whole wall being complete. I know that President Trump has a million things on his plate, and he's taking care of all of them with his cabinet and his team. But we're looking forward to that as well.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And you can see the intricacy of it, too. I mean, these are the engineers who are making sure that this is a robust wall. And President Biden let most of these materials just lay in the desert, especially in Arizona. Texas had to fight for it when they tried to sell off the last pieces of the wall that was not attached before he left office. So how crazy was that?
It was. I remember we had a live shot from Cochise County when President Trump was on the campaign trail. So in Arizona, and that's exactly to your point, you saw these huge just chunks of metal that are supposed to be built for the rest of the wall there. Hopefully they'll be being put up soon. Speaking of the border wall and the border czar Tom Homan said in the last 24 hours, the U.S. Border Patrol has encountered, check this out, 229 illegal aliens across the entire southwest border. That is down from a high of over 11,000 a day under Biden. So in the past 24 hours, this is something that was actually sent to us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network from the Office of Communications at the White House. We all get the emails here at the network, and so do a number of other media outlets. I wonder how many mainstream media outlets are really going to report on that today, to be honest.
Right.
The fact that 229 people were found trying to cross the border. That's down from a high of more than 11,000 a day under Joe Biden. Can you believe it?
Right. I mean, really a remarkable change. And it shows that the Biden administration was either incompetent or did this on purpose, because Alejandro Mayorkas testified that they were not in the purview and did not have the constitutional authority to secure the border. But President Trump's been able to do that with the assignments down at the southern and northern border and through Tom Homan. as the borders are, and through Kristi Noem with the Department of Homeland Security. They've been on the ground to remove these individuals, many now who are serving time behind bars in Guantanamo Bay.
Exactly. Anything connected with criminality, definitely at Guantanamo now, and more on the way. The quote continues from Tom Homan. He says, "I started out as a Border Patrol agent in 1984, and I don't remember the numbers ever being that low. President Trump promised a secure border, and he is delivering." He's delivering on a number of fronts. We see that historic speed that he's talked about, but we're seeing the action of it too.
Right.
It's not just the words. And again, these are all things based in truth and common sense.
Right, and these people too, truly the worst criminals. I mean, they've been involved in child pornography and trafficking and rapes and murders of American citizens. Somehow they've been able to be set free. And I think what's important too, because if you look at Laken Riley's case, the individual was let off on what was considered petty crimes and misdemeanors. So, shoplifting, things of that nature. That's led to worse crimes because they've been out there as repeat offenders. And that's when, if you have DAs and state's attorneys who don't prosecute the laws on the books, that's how you can leave people like this roaming around the country to do evil deeds. And, sadly, people have lost their lives as a result of it. But President Trump taking this issue very seriously. And, I mean, think about the fentanyl, too. I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of people have died. I mean, think about something as tragic as a 9/11 that many of us lived through. This is the loss of life times hundreds of thousands. I mean, and not that you can compare one another, but my goodness, it's just over the course of time, most of us know someone personally or know of someone who has been poisoned because of these cartels.
Yeah, and so not only the fentanyl problem and the criminal element, but you're looking at human trafficking, sex trafficking, so many things going on. But what we're seeing now is a lot less coming across the border.
Right.
Thanks to President Trump, his negotiating skills with the outgoing Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and the Mexican president to have extra troops from those countries along the border as well. So this, again, as there's some 4,000 of our military service members down there, as we saw that video just a second ago, quite awesome to see all of that. Again, we're just reviewing some of the headlines here as we await our next interview from Katie Zakaria, the conservative, I was going to say columnist, probably a columnist as well, a strategy worker as well. Other headlines are following: the Kentucky flooding, claiming the lives of 11 people from the powerful storm from over the weekend. We're seeing the governor, Bashar from Kentucky, talking about that earlier. But, at the end of the day, we're hoping for just people to, have the heartfelt condolences right now for these kind of situations that keep happening.
Right.
Unfortunately, we had the southern wildfire. We've had the North Carolina situation, Ohio from the East Palestine a few years back. But still, we know that this president and the vice president will go and tour these various parts and help the people where they need it the most.
So many natural disasters, so many man-made disasters over the course of the last couple of years, and President Trump on top of that, and looking to reform FEMA or even end it, pending how they'll move forward here. Of course, he just wants people to respond. And you saw that around the table with LA Mayor Karen Bass when she was saying, we want people to be safe. We need the red tape in place so that you have to wait at least a month. And he said, I was walking on people's property today. I have constitutional authorities. You have constitutional authorities and executive mandates that you could put into place to help people. And in the case of the Pacific Palisades, as we watch President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump investigating and meeting with the people, it literally was just their driveway. I mean, everything was brought down to a rubble. And he said, let them go clean it up. What's the wait? But again, these environmental laws and these mandates that bureaucrats have put into place in California really has been the antithesis to most of the country. I can't think of another state with such high regulation. I mean, maybe the Empire State of New York, but California just has some of the most wild things that prevent citizens from just simply living their lives.
Exactly. California and New York, we don't want that title. The people of California that are on the side of President Trump, they don't want to be called living in a state called California anymore, right? You want that freedom to be restored in that nation. So it's 1:41 Eastern right now, so I just want to go over some of the programming for today. The president's schedule has been released. There's nothing on the schedule for today, but we do know he's at the Winter White House this week. there in Florida, and then he'll be on his way to CPAC as well. So I know that he's there until at least Wednesday. But here's the thing. Tomorrow, of course, if there's a press conference or anything else going on, we'll have that here live on Right Side Broadcasting Network, as this is President's Day. It's good to be here with you, Robert. And also, why don't you show them the new hat that we...
oh, yes.
This is from Auburn football game just recently, back when they played Texas A&M. So I gifted it to him because I know that he likes this kind of hat. I like it too, but it just doesn't look right on me. I think it looks better on Bobby. So.
Well, thank you. It's a lovely gift, a great President's Day gift. Thank you, sir. We've become some Auburn fans here, and we love to be in the friendliest village in the Plains. And what an exciting game! I don't know if you caught too against the hated rivals Alabama. That was a great basketball game on Saturday.
Yeah. So Auburn won against Alabama in college basketball the other day. For those of you fans in Tuscaloosa, it's all good. We're all on the same team here in the state of Alabama, but also, of course, regionally, it's a great sport, basketball to watch, especially in March Madness, that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
And Robert and I did not plan to wear Auburn colors today. It just happened to be the way it happened.
I just thought, Jim Jordan Day, it's his birthday as well. I might as well come in with a blue and orange and try to replicate the great congressman's look as he takes on the far left, having to figuratively wrestle them on a regular basis. And we know a great athlete in his own right with many records still standing at the University of Wisconsin at Madison.
Speaking of Auburn, though, Alabama and sports, Senator Coach Tommy Tuberville from Alabama 4 minutes ago on Truth Social said, "For 4 years, Americans suffered under Democrats' record high inflation and wasteful spending. Thankfully, change is here. Under President Trump, we're going to cut spending, get our national debt under control, and lower prices." Looking forward to seeing that happen. That from Senator Tommy Tuberville of the great state of Alabama. Let's go to freetrumpbook.com. Talking about great people, let's talk about Mike Huckabee, the U.S. ambassador to Israel, and also has a show, writes books with his staff. I mean, this guy's on it, isn't he?
He's one of the best out there. freetrumpbook.com, the kid's guide to President Trump. What's so great about this sponsorship is it's free, so feel free to get this for the little patriots in your life or those neighbors who have their head in the sand and are just not paying attention as to why President Trump ran in the first place, and all of the key domestic and foreign policy items of promises made, promises kept, those 20 promises that are changing the world.
Exactly, so freetrumpbook.com. My wife and I, we have a 4-month-old. We've been reading her various, kids' books, the infant books. That one might be a good one to read her.
Oh, yeah. No, I think Allison will pick up on that real quick.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so freetrumpbook.com. All right, so 1:44 Eastern Time. Again, thank you so much for streaming in live with us. We'll be going to Katie Zakaria, the Republican strategist, in just a bit. We were talking about the U.S. Marines down there on the southern border as well. Outside of that, think about all of the great executive orders that we've seen over the past month as we kind of review what we've seen from this 47th presidency. We've seen, how about no men and women's sports, or the national emergency along the southern border, and on. There's so many executive orders that you have to go back into the files of your mind to remember them all.
Oh, it's really remarkable. I mean, I don't think any other modern president has moved this quickly. I can't recall one, or really one that just said, look, this is the mandate from the American people. This is how we'll execute on this. And this is how we're going to get it done. So he's used his business prowess to make a major difference in the federal city of Washington. And it's been way overdue. As we know, the last 4 years were a difficult one when you had such a difference between these two presidents, one completely succumbing to the federal bureaucracy, the other one truly leading as commander-in-chief.
Exactly. All right, so 1:46 Eastern right now. We know President Trump, again, at Mar-a-Lago. We're seeing a number of Truth Social posts as well that he is sharing with the American people. We've been monitoring those. Great to see so many cool videos from Daytona 500 just yesterday as well. And it was awesome to see Air Force One doing a flyover from the vantage point from inside the plane, seeing the huge grandstands and all. Just quite an awesome moment there. A great patriotic kind of day, obviously today, but also from yesterday as well.
Right, just celebrate the country. This is the great American race. And something to stand on shoulders of great patriots, because many international racers, we saw some Brazilian flags there as well, so something to share with the world in regards to our great sports tradition. So, and just a week after the Super Bowl, where was the first sitting president to attend a Super Bowl, but then also the second president himself, of course, to go to a Daytona 500. So that's very fun.
Exactly. All right, so let's look at some of the 7 people, once again, that President Trump has appointed to various cabinet positions. We're waiting on to see when they're confirmed. So far, 16 people have been confirmed, including Pam Bondi and Pete Hegseth and others, great people at great positions in the government. For the FBI, we're waiting Kash Patel. For Secretary for Commerce, Howard Lutnick. The U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Elise Stefanik. The Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon. The Secretary of Labor, Lori Chavez de Reamer. And the Small Business Administrator, Kelly Loeffler, along with the U.S. Trade Representative, Jamison Greer. So once those 7 are confirmed and at their posts, it's all systems go. I mean, it's all systems go right now for our country and our government. But it's great to have the last 7 put into their posts.
Right, and that'll be a great picture together with the entire cabinet. I'm really looking forward to Lori Chavez demeanor, how the Democrats treat her. She's a moderate Republican out of Oregon, served as a congresswoman. But you know what's interesting about her is she will bring labor unions to the table, and some on the right, even like say the Chamber of Commerce and such, not too thrilled that she will be added to this. But it kind of makes sense because President Trump has opened the door for everyone with his populist movement. We look at the unions that actually joined the Republican National Convention to address it, saying that President Trump opened that door. That did not happen with the other party, and the fact that some had not even presented to a Republican convention in 128 years. So, you know, again, President Trump wants to bring everyone to the table and would only know how to do something like that having been in the business where he is involved. So, pretty amazing.
Let's go to PatriotAddictDeals.com, another sponsor here at the network, as we're about 12 minutes away from the top of the hour. You see the Trump Combat Knife. So many awesome products. I know that Robert goes to this website quite a bit because he likes to get the stuff that we have here at the network, right? Products all across.
Absolutely. I think I have at least one from each sponsor.
It's always cool. So you can get that Trump Combat Knife right there. All you have to do is use the promo code RSBN30. For that great discount, 30% off. That's quite the discount. So go to PatriotAddictDeals.com. Speaking of great products as well, MyPillow.com/RSBN. The great Mike Lindell, you see him there on the screen. That mega sale is continuing with a number of great products. Everything from that My Cross that he wears to the My Towels, the flannel sheets, and other products. You know, it would be great to have right now is just a cup of Joe. My Coffee is great too. Have you tasted that stuff yet?
My coffee is one of my favorites.
And one of the people that work here at the network in the studio, in the control room, he has to be a barista. The way he makes his coffee, it's perfect.
Yeah, it's
great.
Quite impressive. So, and he has great recommendations for local breweries in town, which if you're ever visiting the friendliest village on the plains, be sure to drop on in because you'll be treated as if you've been here for years and years. It's good people and some of the better coffee that's around. I mean, coffee's so cool. You know that, okay, I just have to go on a tangent here. One operation that I will not name, well, they're very well known for their fast food drive-through coffee expenditures. Do you know how much they make up for worldwide coffee trade, or even coffee trade in the United States?
No.
Roughly only 5%. Coffee is something that's almost endless. And so whether it's the free and the fair trade, looking for the best beans, it's always something to dive into. It's as exquisite and interesting as wine. So make sure you address your local coffee houses because you may not know, you might just be in for a treat, and most likely you are.
Something just for fun to admit. So when I was dating my now wife, we went to Starbucks, you know, and I know that some of you are like, hey, you shouldn't be going to Starbucks, but whatever. So she got the cold brew, you know, straight black coffee. I ordered a Frappuccino. What in the world am I doing?
Oh, what are you doing?
I'm trying to you know, win the lady over.
This had to be like the 4th or 5th date, I think. I hope, my goodness.
Yeah, this was a few dates in. So what am I getting? This caramel whatever, Frappuccino, and she's getting the cold brew, the tough drink. And I'm like, you know what? We've got to change that. Actually, now, to be honest with you, I like cold brew so much more than really any of the other coffee.
I didn't know this story. Wow, I'm kind of shocked right now. Because he is a cold brew guy. I'm a cold brew guy myself.
Yeah.
So. Well, I mean, he's the best guy. She's with him now. So,
there you go.
She saw through all the Frappuccino ordering.
Good stuff. Live TV, no teleprompter. Isn't it fun? So 1:51 p.m. That's some funny stuff right there. All right, so we're getting ready to go to Katie Zakaria out there in California to join us live here. And, you know, obviously the news has been going at a historic speed. It's also awesome to take a downshift and just enjoy yesterday with the Daytona 500, enjoy today, President's Day, and let's is it grovel's the right word, right? Let's grovel in that of just how awesome this has really been to see our president working at this historic speed.
Oh, it's been remarkable. And had a feeling he was going to do it, having been in the office, having dealt with that, and just the ambush of the lawfare to assassination attempts, and really everything his family has been through. Don Jr. and Eric themselves, perhaps the most subpoenaed individuals in modern American history. The attempt to devalue their great properties and their ethical business. I mean, I have not met one person throughout my career who had anything bad to say when they've worked at the Trump organization. So, I mean, that's just been remarkable to see.
Right. We have some developing news out of Florida as the Florida Attorney General is being sworn in right now, Ashley Moody. So if we have that live picture, we'll go there right now.
Today, as we swear in Florida's newest Attorney General, James Duthmeyer. James, thank you for the honor of being able to MC tonight's event, this morning's event. I really appreciate it. Before we get started, I did a little bit of housekeeping. Maury, I don't know if you're aware, there's some UF students out front. They're going to need a note, President Fox called. So, God, if you can take care of that on the way out, that'd be much appreciated. I thought you might have something to do with that, Maury. Thank you all for being here today as we do this swearing in. Before we get started, I would say introduce all our dignitaries, but that would literally involve us going row by row, person by person, standing up and saying their names. So we'll do a little bit abbreviated version. But before we get started, I do want to introduce, just to say hello and recognize Florida's Governor and First Lady, Ron Casey DeSantis. Thanks for being here. Also, just before we get started, James, I'm sure this has nothing to do with the fact that there's some budget requests coming down the pipe, but he did also want to introduce special guests, President Kathleen Pasadoma. Thank you for being here, Senator. Representative Lawrence McClure, Senator Jay Collins. Thank you all for being here. And lastly, you'll see here in a little bit, but Justice Meredith Sasso for being here. Thank you for representing the court. We appreciate your attendance today. Thank you. With that, I know how James and the governor like to move quickly, so we're going to go right to it. And I'm going to introduce Father Tim Halita to do the invocation. Father Tim.
Please bow your heads. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Heavenly Father, source of all wisdom and justice, source of all that is good, we ask you to bless and protect James Duthmeyer as he assumes the office of Attorney General for our beloved state of Florida. We thank you for his service to the citizens of our state the past several years, and we ask you to guide him as he begins this new role as an administrator of justice and guardian of the rights and dignity of all. Lord, give him wisdom and prudence, the grace to discern truth from error. May he seek justice with mercy and uphold the rule of law with integrity, always placing the common good above all other interests. Bless James's family, his staff, and his colleagues. Bless the people of our state as we all shoulder the burden entrusted to us by those who've come before us to build a society of peace, justice, and truth. We entrust James to your care and ask for the intercession of the Blessed Virgin Mary, patroness of the United States, and St. Thomas More, patron of lawyers and statesmen. We ask this in the name of Jesus Christ, your Son, who lives and reigns with you in the unity of the Holy Spirit, God forever and ever. Amen.
Thank you, Father Tim. And at this point, it's my pleasure to introduce America's Governor, Governor Ron DeSantis.
Thank you. Oh, thanks so much. Please be seated. Thank you. Well, thanks so much for being here. This is a great occasion. James was a bulldog in our administration. And I think most of you who've been involved in this process know that being the chief of staff for a governor is very time-consuming. You get pulled in a bunch of different directions. and particularly being chief of staff when you have a governor that's been very active like we have been. That is not easy. It's not easy to juggle that. It's even more difficult to be able to land victory after victory. And so James successfully did that as good as anybody's ever done. And so I figured, kind of as a reward for that, I wanted him to have more time with his family. I wanted him to have a little bit less hectic. So put him as Attorney General. I mean, he'll be very active as Attorney General, but I think from Chief of Staff tempo, I don't know that there's a position that you get pulled in all those different directions. And the proof's in the pudding. When we had the decision, obviously we put our former Attorney General as a U.S. Senator, and she did a great job for us here in Florida. She's doing a great job now representing there. But we had an opportunity to make a selection for a very important statewide office, and an office that really can make a difference in the lives of Floridians. An office that obviously was very prominent when we were battling Washington during the Biden administration, but also is going to be very important as we're here in this new era of American governance. And so you want somebody that that no matter which way the wind blows, no matter whether it's easy, whether it's difficult, that they're going to be standing for the right things and doing the right things on behalf of the people of Florida. That's not how most people necessarily operate. There's a lot of times taking the path of least resistance is just the easier thing to do. But from time to time, all throughout our administration, James was always digging in and fighting for what was right, even when it wasn't easy. And you go back to when he was general counsel, we were leading the vanguard to drag this country out of COVID authoritarianism, fighting the lockdowns, making sure kids were in school, making sure they could breathe without having masks forced on them for 8 hours a day, making sure our businesses had a right to operate, making sure you didn't have to choose between a job you needed and an mRNA jab you may not have wanted. And then we saw that parlay into education reform, enacting universal school choice, #1 state in America for education freedom, but also fighting against things like the CRT and the DEI when it wasn't popular to do so, when those concepts had the momentum, and we stood in and fought back against that and successfully did that and continue to fight those fights. And so you look at all the successes, there wasn't anything that happened in our administration that James was not integrally involved in. And then even beyond what we do in administrative and what we do with the legislature, which is significant, but having to step up and fight against these amendments that were proposed last year that would have been detrimental to the state of Florida. That was not an easy fight. No one thought that it could be successful, and yet we would not have succeeded in that fight if it wasn't for James's leadership. So this was not a very difficult decision for me to put James as the next Attorney General because I know he's got the foundation. I know he's got the proper worldview. That as new issues come to the fore, and there's going to be a lot of issues in his time as Attorney General, which, I mean, he could serve potentially 10 years as Attorney General, that we're not even thinking about now. But if you approach it with the proper worldview, if you have that solid foundation, you're going to be able to address those issues effectively. And so Casey and I look forward to being able to welcome James to the Florida Cabinet. We wanted him to have this and have a little reception, but then we're getting on the road with the Cabinet today, and we're implementing the immigration legislation, and we're off to the races. And I know he's got a lot of great stuff that he's going to be doing right out of the gate, and he's going to make you proud, and he's going to make all of us proud. So we're happy to be here today. We wish our new Attorney General a great tenure in office, and I have no doubt if he does even a fraction as Attorney General of what he did in our administration, you guys are going to be very, very pleased. So thank you.
Thank you, Governor. And at this time, I would invite General Designate Uthmeyer and his family to come forward, and along with Justice Sasso, to have the oath of office administered.
I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and the government
the Constitution and the government
of the United States
of the United States
and of the state of Florida,
and of the state of Florida,
that I am duly qualified
to hold office
under the Constitution of the state, and that I will well and faithfully perform the duties of Attorney General on which I am now about to enter. So help me God. Congratulations.
Governor DeSantis, First Lady, it's been the honor of a lifetime to assist you in what's been the most transformational governance. It's not lost on me the duty that you have bestowed upon me. I will never forget it, and I will never let you down. Justice Sasso, members of the legislature, state leaders, friends and family, my parents, most importantly, my wife Jean and our 3 beautiful children, thank you for being here with me today. As I put my hand on that Bible, I was reminded of a verse from Proverbs, a verse that I turn to daily. To do what is right and just for the Lord is greater than any sacrifice. To do what is right and just. As with all spiritual truths, these words hit a political mark. To do what is right and just. It's easy to say the right things, but not everybody goes out and does them. This is one of the many lessons that I have learned from our great governor. Our state is exceptional because we lead not with political rhetoric or empty promises. We do what is right by the people, even if it is not the easiest path. Sometimes doing what's right can cost you. Not just the sacrifices of late nights in the office, early mornings, or days away from your family. Sometimes it can cost you political fortune, political gain. It can disrupt the status quo. It can bring discomfort. Well, I promise to you and the people of Florida that I will endeavor every day to do what is right and to levy justice where it is due. No empty rhetoric, no posturing, no excuses. We will use the office of the Attorney General to punish criminals, to protect the innocent, and to stand boldly by our brave law enforcement. We will champion an America First agenda, and we will fight back against the cartels, the gangs, and the traffickers that have wreaked havoc on our country for far too long. We will not stand idly by as the left tries to infiltrate our institutions and use the court system to indoctrinate our kids. We will fight the activists that try to weaken our duly enacted laws, that try to challenge our constitutional order, and that try to harm the unborn. We will protect the sacred fire of liberty and all the rights and responsibilities therein. And I promise you this, we will fight every day with dignity, we will deliver results, and we will fight to keep our home safe, strong, and free. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, and there's a reception out there, and thanks to the greatest University of Florida for sending some marching band.
Okay, from just earlier in Florida, of course, Senator Ashley Moody, now, of course, a U.S. Senator and the new AG in Florida. So good to see America First people in the Sunshine State.
Yes, another millennial, only 37 years young. So exciting to see such a vibrant Sunshine State and such a great place for conservatives to lead nationwide in making a difference at the state and local level. And of course, they were joined by Governor Ron DeSantis and First Lady Casey DeSantis as well.
Exactly. So it's 2:08, Monday, February 17th. Happy President's Day to you. Matthew Alvarez alongside Robert McNeely here, just bringing you the latest as we see it throughout the country when it comes to political talking points, of course, but also we know that the president's schedule limited today in the sense of course, it's a holiday, but he's going to be at the Winter White House this week for a portion of the week. I'm sure there'll be some sort of event or some press conference maybe tomorrow, Wednesday, who knows, but we know CPAC's coming up as well.
Oh, yes, looking forward to that. And Ashley Brassfield, Christina Loren will join yours truly live from National Harbor in Maryland, just south of D.C. Have some great interviews lined up there as well. Going to be so much fun. So if you are attending, please come by Media Roll, say hello, and we'd love to talk to you. But also, of course, Mr. Matthew Alvarez will be anchoring here live from Auburn, Alabama. So great coverage this upcoming week for what's going to be a great grassroots event.
Yeah, it's always good. And speaking of grassroots, of course, Right Side Broadcasting Network, conservative media, grassroots, and the reformation of media, the new media, as we see it. You know, a lot of people saying no more with the mainstream thing, no more with those lies. Let's go to people that are just simply wanting to talk about common sense and the truth of our country, the Constitution, we the people, all that good stuff. So thank you guys so much for streaming in live. Let's get ready to thank one of our sponsors, and then we'll go to our next live interview in just a minute. We do know that, of course, freedom and safety are the cornerstones of the American way. You may have heard of this product, a very well-known product. It's a less lethal launcher there that you see, not classified as a firearm, no background checks. It's legal in all 50 states. And so basically there are two types of rounds here. It's a kinetic plastic ball, and there's also a chemical round that has actual tear gas and that kind of thing in it. This is something that really you could protect yourself with, and it's legal in all 50 states.
Oh, yes, and really great to shoot. I mean, it's got the feeling of, you know, a hand pistol, but of course, a great way to not take someone's life, but if you have to defend yourself, a really wonderful option. And this group also very pro 2A as well. So it's not like someone's against the Second Amendment and is proposing this now, but even law enforcement's getting this as well, because you have these rogue DAs and jurisdictions that actually will prosecute you for defending yourself. So Byrna.com, a great option to go to. You have great reviews, and we've actually used it ourselves just to test it out, and it is highly effective. So highly recommend that.
Very cool. They also have this pull pierce patent where you don't have to puncture the canister like other products out there. So the puncturing of the canister for the CO2 for the power of the projectile happens once you pull the first trigger, the first time you pull the trigger. So that's a patented technology there. Great stuff. Whether you're protecting your home or loved ones, Byrna powerful, less lethal kinetic and tear gas ammunition that can incapacitate attackers for up to 30 minutes, allowing you to protect yourself and your loved ones without the legal ramifications of taking a life. So we're hearing the law enforcement statistics from Byrna have to do with about 99% of altercations. Usually you don't have to go to that deadly force of a firearm.
Right.
So these are the kind of things, the in-between situation where, you know, if somebody comes up to your window and they've got something, you know, if you're in your car, right, and they're trying to maybe rob you, like, what are you going to do? Like, you could, I mean, there's different options, of course, there. But again, Byrna, a great company. Go to Byrna.com/RSBN for more information.
It's a great organization. We're joined now, too, by Katie Zachariah, Republican strategist out of California. Such a joy to have you on the show. Please, let's run through on this President's Day some of the highlights you've seen from President Trump's first month in office. We're not even quite there yet with February 17th. Of course, just a month shy of being back at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
President's Day be one that we're celebrating President Trump and not Kamala Harris. I hear she's trying to make a run for governor out here in California, of which she will be defeated by a good Republican, I hope. President Trump, I start at the border on his absolute decisive wins for our country. He came out, one of the first decisions things he talked about when he was running was the securing of the border, and appointing Tom Homan to be the border czar and actually delivering on securing our southern border has been one of the biggest wins we've seen. Not only has he done it on a domestic level, but he's been able to leverage the power of tariffs and force Mexico and Canada to help enforce the border regulations that they should have been doing all along. And I think one of the questions that I continue to ask myself in these 3 weeks that President Trump's been in office, he has been more effective, more decisive, working on behalf of Americans far more than the entire 4 years of Joe Biden. And I asked myself, how as Americans did we put up with such a lackadaisical, ineffective, and really negligent president for so long with Joe Biden? I mean, President Trump had talked about the 25th Amendment not haunting him. We should have dealt with Joe Biden with the 25th Amendment middle of his presidency, don't you think?
Well, we still have to be cautious, which I agree with, but at the end of the day, we're seeing some great things out there. What are your thoughts about, just to your point, the southern border and the fact that President Trump said it's a national emergency? We already have troops down there now. We see video of them putting up wiring and that kind of thing. It must make you feel good.
Yeah, so the headlines that I've been watching as it pertains to California, there was a migrant shelter in San Diego that came out with a statement that said we have had 0 migrants at this NGO, at this shelter, since President Trump took office. 0. And so they're thinking of shutting down this migrant center because, oh my goodness, our borders are being enforced, right? The laws of our nation are being enforced. You have to go through a process if you want to come into this country. And I heard Homan say the other day, just 229 aliens are crossing at this point versus the 11,000 per day that he was seeing under Joe Biden's administration. And that speaks to a number of things. It speaks to President Trump is serious, that countries around the world and people around the world know that when President Trump came to office, he wasn't going to mince words. He wasn't going to waste time at the southern border and quite frankly at the northern border as well. And so he's serious, and what he's doing is exactly what he said he would do and what we elected him to do.
And how will Kash Patel be, a great influence on the help with the intelligence community? Because we've seen some real rock stars confirmed by the Senate, whether that be Tulsi Gabbard, of course, RFK, Kristi Noem on the border. She's helped so much with the Department of Homeland Security, and the assistants to borders are Tom Homan. But how will Kash Patel, in a sense, be that last piece of the puzzle?
I'm looking forward to that confirmation next week. Kash Patel, I think, is going to be one of the most effective at really disintegrating what we call the deep state and the FBI and the weaponization of the government from within. And again, we go back to Homan, who said that a lot of these leaks, when they were going and deporting illegal immigrants in certain areas of the country, a lot of these leaks were coming from the FBI itself. If you think about that for a second, the FBI is leaking information that's adverse to the needs and actually desires of the American public, right? We want to see deportations, and the FBI are leaking these areas ahead of time. And Homan said, we're going to look into this. We are going to make sure that this doesn't happen anymore. And I think when we have a Kash Patel who is actually working with the president and not against the president, who's going to be ensuring that the president's demands and his will and what he promised the American people is done, rather than trying to undermine him like we saw with the last FBI, we are going to have a completely transformed government. He's going to rock the FBI in a way it's been needed to rock. And I think we're going to weed out a lot of these people who are leaking and working against President Trump.
Exactly. And for those of you joining us right now, this is Katie Zachariah from California, a conservative strategist as well. Katie, can you tell the people that are watching right now, if they don't know who you are, tell us about where you're from and more of your personal story as to why you're doing what you're doing now, and just more about your history working in conservative broadcasting.
Yeah, I have been involved in politics pretty much since I can remember, growing up on Rush Limbaugh. And I think I worked in the Bush White House in the Office of Political Affairs for a brief period of time, went to law school, practiced law internationally. I actually lived in China, which is one of the experiences that encouraged me even more to pour into the need to push back against the CCP. And then I was able to get involved in an initiative out here in California called Fix California with Ambassador Rick Grinnell. And we are attempting and actually pretty successfully registering conservative voters that have been on the sidelines, that have decided their vote doesn't count. And we're registering these voters at a rapid pace to get them off the sidelines and participating in our elections. If you see, California came in third in the nation for votes for President Trump. We had Florida, Texas, and California. And I know it's hard to believe that California delivered that much for President Trump, but you would be surprised to see how many people are sick and tired of our failed leadership out here in California and are turning out as common sense voters for common sense policies. Common sense policies like we're sick and tired of sanctuary cities that are destroying our state. Common sense policies like we don't want fentanyl on our southern border killing our citizens, right? These types of things shouldn't be partisan conversations. They should be bipartisan. And really we are able to be effective out here in California because we're following the trend of people tired of the woke, ineffective Democratic Party.
Right, and talk to us, Katie, about who might be that person to lead this revival of the Golden State. I mean, we once had Richard Nixon and Ronald Reagan come out of the West Coast, and to your point, the largest amount of Republican actually registered people in the country happen to live in California. So who could be the person to lead this charge post Gavin Newsom as he's term limited?
Yeah, it's an exciting time for California. The unfortunate event of the fires, and then I don't know if you saw the horrible landslides and mudslides that then came through and destroyed what hadn't been destroyed by the fires. It's just, there's such ineffective leadership, and those events have really, turned people into aggressive, like we have to change leadership, right? And so I'm looking at the landscape, and Ambassador Rick Grinnell did say that if Kamala Harris decided to run for governor of California, he might throw his hat in the race. I think that Ambassador Rick Grinnell is a Californian. He's been out here. He is a Trump Republican. He's not one of these middle-of-the-road Republicans. He's not a rhino. He's not wishy-washy. He's been with President Trump since the beginning, and I do think if Kamala were to run and he decided to run against her, I think he could actually win California and change California from the inside out to be really what I believe it truly is, which is a MAGA Republican state. I think a lot needs to happen before that. We need to get the voter ID that President Trump has discussed. We need to require voter ID in California elections, and that should be something that Gavin Newsom has to do in order to get the federal funding from the fires. I think we absolutely need voter integrity laws that are going to wipe out all the voter rolls that are saturated with dead voters that have moved, illegal immigrants, and we need a real cleanup of our system before 2026. But I do think we could do it. I really do.
So the question is the exodus from the people of California, is it really that true? I mean, all your friends, family, all the people you know there politically as well, I mean, are people saying, no, I'm going to dig my boots in the ground here, and I want to see this state become great again through, Republican and America First leadership? Or are they saying, you know what, this is way too much, I'm out of here?
Yeah, it's such a great question, because really at the 2020 mark, I have to move to Florida. I literally was about to jump on the train and leave because it was such a tyrannical state to live in. And actually pretty scary to see how much people complied and turned to trust a very, very untrustworthy government. And so what I really do believe is that those Californians who have decided to stay and stick it out are digging their boots in the ground. There are going to be those in the Palisades fire, especially the elderly, who cannot rebuild their homes or don't have the means or the energy or the time or the insurance to rebuild their home, that I think will relocate. But I have definitely seen a shift of people realizing that if you don't now stand and fight for California, and we allow it to continue, we continue to concede ground to these politicians like Gavin Newsom and Mayor Karen Bass, and even like the Adam Schiffs and the Nancy Pelosi's, this type of ideology spreads. We cannot allow the California ideology of these woke politicians to continue to spread to other states. It is up to Californians to stand here and fight and say, we are going to ensure that our voting system works. We are going to get voter ID. We are going to push back against these policies, and we're going to actually get unregistered conservatives off the sidelines and fighting, because their vote does matter. And the more people that realize that what they can do matters and start turning over some of these assembly seats at the state level and even the state Senate level and start battling in these smaller races, those types of races are going to go up and really affect the greater, and we can start winning federal elections, and we can even win a gubernatorial election when people start participating. And unfortunately, these events of the fires and mudslides have led to people realizing they have to start participating and they have to start changing. But I do see a shift in California to fight and not flee.
It's always good to see that, because we the people want to stay where we want to stay. If you want to live in California, let's make it great there. Katie, Zachariah, thank you again for joining us live from the Golden State. Thank you so much for joining us on RSBN Live.
Thank you.
So we're going to go to Colonial Metals Group, a great sponsor here at the network. And then after that, we have joining us live, Silk will be joining us live via telephone. So it'll be great to hear from her as well and get her thoughts on the first month of President Trump's 47th presidency here. We'll see that here in just a second. So let's go to Colonial Metals Group. Of course, an urgent warning there from the Colonial Metals Group when it comes to various billionaires saying, you know what, we're not going to stay in Wall Street. I mean, Warren Buffett dropped $133 billion in stocks just the other day.
Oh, yes. I mean, this is really crucial to making sure you have the retirement portfolio, not just in properties or assets, but even an ability to convert your 401k or IRA into precious gold, silver, and metals. And this gold guide is outstanding to have because it's no obligation, it's free for 2025, and there's been a 7,000% increase in the value of gold from 1971 until 2024. Of course, in 71 is when we went off the gold standard during the Nixon administration, went to the petrodollars to trade with Saudi Arabia and those who are focused on the global markets when it comes to oil, gas, and natural energy. But you need those tangible metals that have stood the test of time. So scan that QR code there right now, shield your savings, and make sure you protect for your retirement and those monumental moments like sending your kid to college.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, freegoldguide.com. You'll get one of the info kits right here, gold and silver, Colonial Metals Group. Gold and silver, always high value. Great company there, Colonial Metals Group. We'll talk about them in just a bit as it is toward the bottom of the hour right now. Producer, if you could repeat that, I think we have Silk on the line coming up. Okay. All right. So getting ready to hear from Silk. It would be great to hear just her words on on what President Trump has done over the past 3+ weeks for our country. And we know that Silk is OG MAGA, and that is what we love to have here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, the grassroots, the people from the beginning, specifically Silk, of course. So let's see if Silk is on the line for us right now as we switch over our programming to talk to her in just a second, as it's 2:27 p.m. Eastern Time here on Right Side. Silk, do you hear us?
Yes, I hear you loud and clear.
We see a great photo of you praying over the president right now. Talk to us, Silk. Your thoughts about what he has done for our country.
You know, that photo is the epitome of what I have been doing for our country and for this great president. Especially, you know, when my sister and I had the opportunity to be there with him and to just pray with everybody on his success. When I think of today as President's Day, you know, President Trump is the greatest president of all times in my book, okay? And with everything that he's done over the last month, not even a month, we still have a few more days before it becomes an actual month. He's done more for this country than the last 7 to 10 presidents have done for our country, okay? And he's the president for the people, by the people. And the left, they don't understand that. They feel like that they own all of this. But see, President Trump, he's running this country as a business, not as a cartel, like the past presidents have been running it, okay? All right? What President Trump is doing is uprooting the fraud. He's exposing and disclosing all of the waste, fraud, and abuse that's been happening in our country. And the way that they've been running our country into the ground, President Trump is just letting it all hang out and showing the people what's been truly going on. And as a tax-paying citizen, I am furious with what I'm finding out. I'm furious with the way that I see American citizens that's homeless, that is living paycheck to paycheck, that is burdensome by the IRS and all of these taxes that we're paying, and then for our hard-earned money to be going to foreign countries, to pet projects, and to launder money back to these individuals. It's ridiculous. It surely is ridiculous. And I just continue to pray that President Trump continue to have the strength and the will to expose all of the fraud that's truly going on. You know, the other night on the show, the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show, I was talking about that it's time for we the people. I believe that we need to introduce our own piece of legislation called Stop the Steal Act. Stop the Steal Act. You know, where we stop American tax dollars from being stolen by these corrupt politicians and these different agencies that continue to launder, you know, our American tax dollars to benefit themselves, okay? And I feel that any individual that is caught stealing Americans' wealth and laundering American tax dollars for their own gain, they should be made to sell all of their possessions, and that money should come back to us. All of this waste, fraud, and abuse that's being found by Doge and Elon Musk team, I believe that money should be returned to the American people. We shouldn't have to pay taxes. We shouldn't have to continue to pay all of these doggone taxes. If they return the money that they basically have stolen and outsourced to all of these different entities and these different projects and so forth, guess what? We'll have the money we need and we won't be in such a high deficit. That's how I feel about it. So I love President Donald J. Trump, and I want him to keep on doing what he's doing because I want the people to know there's a new sheriff in town, and his name is President Donald J. Trump.
And we've seen how this has played out the last month of his presidency, as well as Vice President J.D. Vance really taking that message overseas about people listening to their constituents when he was addressing those European leaders in Munich, also the AI summit in Paris, France. But Silk, what's interesting is faith and religion have played such a major role and parallel in our civics, and we seem to be seeing somewhat of a revival here. How is it biblical to keep your money in order, to keep deficits down? Is there something that this administration can do, to your point with Doge, to make it more transparent and to actually make sure we have a surplus, and then we take care of the American people and the residents who are less fortunate?
Well, when you talk about, first off, about faith, and you talk about our religion, remember, America, we were founded on Judeo-Christian values, okay? If we just continue to stick with our values and stop allowing people to come in and indoctrinate us with the demonicism that they try to implement within our systems, look, we won't be in a deficit. See, because what's happening is we're being ripped off from within domestically. All right, the people from within have us looking outside of our country, but it's people within our own country that's ripping us off. That's ripping off our system. No more looking over there at Putin and Russia. Look at what's happening right now with our own politicians, with the people that's supposed to be in control of our money. When you talk about transparency, every year I have to file my taxes. Okay, every quarter I got to send my stuff to my accountant for her to do what they need to do to send him whatever I owe quarterly. Guess what? It is time for our own government, these different entities, these bureaucrats, to be held accountable, and transparency will begin with them showing what they're doing with our tax dollars. Every single year they need to be audited. We need to know what's going on with the money. It's our money. It's American tax dollars money, okay? And we need to see this. We need to know this, okay? So when we talk about faith, we have faith to believe that is going to happen. And guess what? With us exercising our faith, we now see it happening. All right. And that's what I absolutely love about it. But it needs to continue to be more transparency. It is really a shame that this has been going on for decades upon decades. And this is really, truly the first time we actually get to see what's been going on with our finances when it comes down to the deficit being so just outrageous. All right. It's ridiculous. But I love standing on the principle of faith, knowing that if you have the faith as a grain of a mustard seed, that's all you need is a grain of a mustard seed. You can tell that mountain to move, and that mountain will be moved. This mountain of lies, this mountain of waste, this mountain of fraud, this mountain of abuse have to be moved. And that's why I'm so grateful. When I think about President Trump, God chose him for such a time as this. Because who else? Just think about it. Who else do you think have the galls to go in and do what President Donald J. Trump is doing? You got a lot of people that say they'll do it. They all talk and no action. But with President Donald J. Trump, he's going to be about the action. He's the proof with the truth. And he's showing us how it needs to be done, because we want our country back. Our country has been under siege for a very, very, very long time by a group of elitists, some deep state snakes that ceased to destroy this country. But I'm grateful that the American people woke up and awakened to the fact that they've really been hoop-lied. They've been lied to. And now they see, wait a minute, no. And I don't care. It's not just Republicans. It's also Democrats. It doesn't matter what your political affiliation is. It's about you being just a human being and realizing something ain't right here, and something that hadn't been right for a very, very, very long time. And now they get to see what's actually been truly going on.
So, we're seeing so much transparency from President Trump and from Doge. We're seeing all of this revealed. Did you think that the corruption was actually this deep? The saying of it's just the tip of the iceberg. And then second, it seems as if the left-wing media is back at it again with trying to peddle their false narratives. Are you surprised that they're even trying? I mean, nobody's even watching, are they?
You know what? The only people that's watching is them, okay? The actual people is watching the underground media, the alternative media, because they are in search for the truth. When you go to the grocery store and you go to check out, they don't ask you if you are a Republican or a Democrat. The price is the same for all. So it's hurting everybody's pocketbook whenever under Jim Crow Joe Biden, especially when you went to the grocery store. Now I'm understanding eggs. You know, a lot of people there are in search for eggs. I mean, just the simple egg. People are in search for it. Thank God that I do have my chickens and I do have my eggs. Thank you, Lord Jesus. Thank you. I thank you for that. But the left-wing media is doing what the left-wing media have always been doing because they've been controlled, okay? They've been controlled for a very, very long time. And so that in order for them to get paid and get their money, they got to do what the big dogs tell them they have to do. They have to say what the big dogs say that they have to say. But the thing that gets me when you talk about the corruption is the fact that we've been paying for it. Our tax dollars is being swindled and laundered back to a lot of these different media companies for them to push this propaganda. And that's something that the people need to know about. So the left-wing media, they're going down. When my sister and I, we was at one of the rallies, and the song she sang was "Satan, we're gonna tear your kingdom down." She talked directly to the media, and she bust out singing that song. And you know what? Satan's kingdom is coming down. When we talk about the left-wing media, baby, it is on its way right on down. People don't believe them anymore because everything that they've spewed out there, people realize it have not been the truth. They're starting to listen to what they call the conspiracy theories because everything that the conspiracy theorists have talked about and have said and have been labeled as, guess what, baby, is true. It's come out and turned out to be the naked, nasty, low-down, gutter-written truth. So people come over, like I said, Lindell TV, RSBN Network. They come in to listen to you all, to see what's going on, what's truly happening, because you all are telling the truth like it needs to be told. And what the left-wing media have been doing is telling narratives. They're telling narratives because they want to steer you in a whole nother direction to keep you deflected and distracted from what's really truly going on. And that's what's been happening in our country for such a long time. That's why right now a lot of people are up in arms. You even got Congress. You got Congress members that is so upset about what they're seeing when it comes down to the exposure of all of this corruption. And it got me to thinking, how is it that our own Congress don't know what's going on when they are the one that's allocating the money? You know, how don't they didn't think, okay, wait a minute, somebody just came in and said, we're going to just allocate all of these billions for some sex changes, allocate this stuff for some science to see about the mice sexes and seeing how fertile a mice can be if we change the mice sex. I mean, all of this money being allocated to seeing a shrimp run on a treadmill underwater. I mean, it's ridiculous when you truly, truly think about it, okay? This is what's been going on. This is the corruption. The corruption that I am seeing, it goes further than what I thought it would be. It goes even further. Now, I felt in my spirit, yeah, they were money laundering, you know, they were doing a little bit of peddling. But what I'm actually seeing now, it is truly ridiculous. What they should have invested in is a laundromat because they've been washing a lot of money and hanging us out to dry. That's what these people have been doing. So yeah, it's truly straight up corruption. Shame on the left-wing media and some on the right. We got some on the right, just they ain't no good as well. Some of these right-wing networks, they are ran by deep state snake Republicans, and they don't mean us no doggone good. So I'm grateful for RSBN. I'm grateful for alternative media. I'm grateful for underground media that allows individuals like yourselves and myself to be able to tell the truth and how it needs to be told without somebody telling us we have to say it this way or that way or you're going to get fired.
Come on,
I'm grateful
Silk.
for that.
I mean, I hear you loud and clear. Another mic drop from Silk, again, on Right Side Broadcasting Network. You know, the American people that are watching this, the majority of the country that voted for President Trump, are all saying amen. They're all nodding their heads, as are we, and we agree with you. The great Silk, thank you again for joining us on RSBN Live.
Thank you so much for having me. God bless you all, and I love each and every one of you. God bless.
Thank you. Thank you so much. God bless you. A great photo there, of course, of Silk praying over the president. As it's now 2:42 Eastern Time here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. I'm Matthew Alvarez alongside Robert McNeely. Great to catch up with someone that was there from the beginning when it comes to President Trump and his his campaigns back before the first administration even took place.
Yes, an absolute hero of the movement, and great points as well, talking about how much this country is based on Judeo-Christian principles and how we're seeing that play out in real time as constitutional order is being not only redeveloped but restored in this great nation of ours, nearly 250 years of existence. And Mr. Director, are we ready for that video of playback with Governor Beshear in Kentucky? Okay, wonderful. We're actually going to go live to showing you what's taking place in Kentucky and the Commonwealth and get an update from the governor on the ground there in regards to these really terrible storms that took place.
Yeah, so the intense flooding. At last check earlier this morning, 11 people lost their lives in Kentucky because of this terrible storm that came through over the weekend. So we'll be going to the governor live to hear more about the latest numbers there and what's going on. It'd be interesting to see any visuals as well. But, you think of flooding and then you think of, Western North Carolina and the terrible situation after Hurricane Helene. And now we're shifting over a bit to Kentucky here in just a minute. But, it's a happy President's Day. It's a great time. We're seeing a lot of great things with the Trump effect. And we're going to continue to cover that here at the network. We're also covering stories that you're about to see here as well out of Kentucky when it comes to breaking news or developing news. We did see from Florida recently the new Attorney General just gets sworn in there as Ashley Moody, as you mentioned, is now the senator, of course, taking the former Senator Marco Rubio's position. So as he is the Secretary of State. So we're following a lot of different news stories here. And as soon as we get that live feed, we're going to go to Kentucky from the Governor Beshear there to give us that update from this flood that happened just recently. And then a lot of severe thunderstorms, a lot of tornado warnings in the region from the southwest all the way, or from the southeast all the way up to Pennsylvania and D.C. with the snow. So it's interesting at the temperature difference, of course. Those of you out there watching from Arizona, New Mexico, California, you have your own different kind of situation out there, of course. But let's go to Kentucky right now with the governor.
Okay, let me have your attention, please. I'd like to ask everyone if they would take their seats. And the governor is on a tight time frame. I'll ask everyone if they could just turn their cell phones off. I'm not going to introduce everybody that's here today. First of all, let me say my name is Ray Jones. I'm the Pike County Judge Executive, and we have experienced a significant flood event, which, as we stand here today, has claimed approximately 3 lives. We do think that there are potentially additional fatalities. We don't know that. There are individuals who are missing. We have hundreds of structures, both business and residential, that have been damaged, and a lot of the individuals who have been harmed by this flood have been also damaged in recent floods, some as recent as the July 28, 2022 event. I have been in constant communication with Governor Beshear and his staff, including Eric Gibson in Emergency Management and Transportation Secretary Jim Gray. I also want to thank the members of the Kentucky State Police, the Pike County Sheriff's Department, the Coal Run Police, and all of the fire departments, EMS, and rescue squad personnel who have assisted in both the rescue and in the current rescue and recovery operations. I'm not going to take too much of your time. We'll try to answer some questions later on. At this time, I would like to ask Governor Andy Beshear to come up.
Thanks, Judge. First, I want to thank your county judge, your mayors, but most importantly, all your first responders for the incredible job that they have been doing. We just got hit by one of the most significant natural disasters we've seen in our lifetime, and that's after seeing a lot of significant disasters. The fact With the damage and the water that we've seen, that thus far we only have 3 confirmed fatalities in Pike County, means your first responders are the very best. And we hope that we augmented them with teams from other places and other parts of the state. And I will tell you, we pre-positioned assets for this flood better than I've seen in any previous disaster. My message is we're going to be here for you. Team Kentucky is going to give you our very best. Pike County is probably hit harder than any other place in this state. We're going to show up and make sure your families get the very best treatment that we can, and we will dig out, we will muck out, we'll rebuild every single structure that's here, and we'll make sure that there is a bright future for Pike County. I want to specifically thank emergency management here and in the surrounding regions. They spent about a week planning. And when you look at the amount of rainfall we've gotten, certainly as a statewide event, one of the most significant that we have ever seen. The damage goes from our Mississippi River counties all the way to the furthest part of Pike County. So this was something that truly hit everywhere. But when we look at flooding, certainly Eastern Kentucky got the worst of it. And it's not been that long since you got the worst of a couple other disasters too. Somebody once told me that God saves his toughest challenges for the toughest people. And Eastern Kentucky is filled with tough, strong people. But I want you to know the rest of Kentucky, and whatever I can do, the rest of the United States is going to stand with you here in Eastern Kentucky to make sure we get this job done. The most recent numbers we have is, thankfully, we're still only confirming 11 fatalities across Kentucky, but that still puts us as a very deadly natural disaster. A significant number of those were sadly people deciding to drive through standing or running water. And certainly, if we experience other flooding events in the future, we want to really encourage people not to do that. As we move forward, we know that there's still high water in a lot of places. There's still a lot of washed out roads. And we need to communicate to people, don't go around the barriers. Don't go through that water. We've already lost enough. We don't want to lose anybody else. We can find another way for you to get where you're going. Just please be safe. We want to thank all of our USAR teams from across Kentucky that came in from every single part. And as a judge would tell you, we surged a lot of our resources here in Ashley, down in Prestonsburg, and throughout the region. There were more teams in Eastern Kentucky than anywhere else because we knew what the concerns could be. We're also thankful we had teams in from Indiana, Ohio, and Missouri, so a lot of other states answered our call to provide that assistance. We're now down to 12,297 customers without power. I know a lot of them are here in Pike County. We were just in a home whose power just came on. And we hope anybody else here whose power is off, we see that happening because it's about to get really cold. And that's why the warming centers and having shelters are incredibly important. If your power isn't scheduled to come back on for another couple days, find a warm place because unfortunately we're also going to get anywhere between 2 to 6 inches of snow in this area starting Tuesday night into Wednesday night. I know that's not fair, but it's still what we're facing. We want to make sure we get all the rescues done before that we're not doing boat rescues in a snowstorm. We want to make sure we have everybody somewhere safe and warm to where we don't have to have first responders out in the middle of the night, Tuesday night, helping people to get to a safer place. Drinking water still significantly impacted. Elkhorn City, not operational. That's the only one that is fully inoperable right now, but was practically underwater. So everybody is doing their best to get that back up and online. 26 systems under limited operation, 28,576 services under a boiled water advisory, and about 17,000 service connections without water at all. Wastewater systems also hit around the state. When you have this much water, it creates a lot of pressure and it bursts a lot of lines. And so we've got to deal with what we have now, and then we've got to do a lot of rebuilding afterwards. Rapid needs assessment. We're trying to tell everyone around the state, if your life's in danger, call 911. But if you're concerned about other needs, we have a number which is 607-6665. That's if you don't have enough food, if you can't get out of your property or your area because of the water. You can also call your local folks here, but we want to make sure that 911 is open for those in emergent situations. We have 12 shelters open across the state. Again, really important based on how cold it's going to get. And if I can give you all some brand new information. Earlier this morning, we realized that in Martin County, we had 2 apartment complexes that were going to be without power for multiple days, not going to get back up when it gets cold. The water was rising, and in fact, the parking lot around it was underwater, and we were worried about the safety and life of a lot of families that are there. Thanks to 9 separate helicopters, including several from out-of-state, National Guard and KSP, as well as a number of boats from a lot of different places. We have now evacuated 237 Kentuckians that have been successfully rescued. We have 6 left to go. I was there at Little Sandy at the airport with these families getting off, thankful that they were safe and really grateful for the National Guard of our state, of Tennessee, of Indiana, Kentucky State Police, and everyone else who made that happen. We couldn't get to them for over a day and a half, so this is a really good moment where we know that all those individuals are safe. Today, we are applying to FEMA for individual assistance, which we believe we should qualify for. Now, I will say we've been through that in the past, and there are some challenges with it. But the first thing it does is open up dollars for immediate needs. I think that's about $750 that people can qualify for, and that's just the immediate needs. That is not the total. There were rumors that went around before. Then there's about $300+ for cleaning and sanitizing, and a lot of people are going to need that, and that can help them out. And then there's the regular individual assistance where people can qualify for just over $42,000. We're already talking to the judge, the mayor, and others on making sure we can set them up at the most convenient locations. And you have my promise. I will push on FEMA to make it as easy as it can be, and they're limited by Congress. It can't be easy for them. But I will do everything I can to put as much pressure on to get as many people approved. Listen, I work for you. And the only people that I care about making sure get the very best are you. And so when we get that set up, we're going to be in constant contact to make sure that we're getting people the information they need so that they can apply and get back on their feet. Other avenues of help are going to open up. We're already working with our state legislature on hopefully creating another safe type fund. Those first calls have gone really well, so thank you to Rocky Atkins for helping us and getting that going. And you know what? He's here to help Eastern Kentucky every time there's a challenge. I want to thank your state senator, who I know is going to help us make that happen. You did the last time. And getting that East Kentucky Safe Fund, both Senator Wheeler and Ashley, Representative Tackett Lafferty, were both instrumental in making that happen. So just want to make sure that we thank them and also pre-thank them for the help that we're going to have. But again, hope you see I'm here within 72 hours of when this started. We're not going anywhere. This is going to be just as important as the rebuilding of any other place that's been damaged while I've been governor, and we're going to make sure you get the resources that you need. We turn it over to anybody else, Judge?
No, I'd just like to give some additional numbers and some additional information. Part of the plan right now is we are staging all emergency supplies at the East Kentucky Exposition Center. If you want to volunteer, if you know groups like Samaritan's Purse or others that want to bring supplies in, the number to call is 606-432-0210. That is Pike County Emergency Management. You can ask for Doug Tackett. Doug is our retired emergency management director who we brought out to coordinate that aspect, the volunteers and the donations. I'm going to bring Nee Jackson up just briefly because I know the governor's got another commitment. We are going to be setting up, we have 20 of the travel trailers that we kept from the last flood event when the state offered those to us. Yeah. We're going to get those set up. The governor, we've got more if we need them. We've got more coming in if we need them, and we're going to try to get the infrastructure put in place for those. The governor's already volunteered that. We're going to be getting water out to the local volunteer fire departments to try to get that out to where it needs to go. We are in that process right now. CJ Childers, CJ, you got something you want to say?
The water going out right
Yeah. So we've got water coming in. Water will be going out to the volunteer fire departments in the affected areas today. Let me also say there are some other numbers that you need. The governor touched on this. If it's an emergency, a matter of life or death, call 911. Do not call 911 if it's a matter of a drain stopped up or something like that. If it involves a state road, the easiest way to tell if it's a state or federal highway is if it has painted lines on it. That is a state or federal road. 433-7791 is the District 12 Highway Department number. If it's a matter involving a state or federal highway, call them. If it is a county road, that number is 606-432-6230. The first thing that we're trying to do with our roads is get them open. We have at least 7 county bridges that have completely washed out. I'm sorry, Fabian? It's already grown to 10 this morning. We're up to 10 county bridges that are completely gone, and we're still trying to assess the damage. We still have people that we're sending search and rescue teams to try to get into. I want to thank Commissioner Bubby Atkins. He works for Clintwood JOD. He's been in the mining industry. And I want to thank that company because we have a group over a community at Woodman that the bridge washed out, and we're getting access through his company and their owner, I guess, our president, Chris Atkins, who is helping get transportation. Rocky knows Chris, to try to get a road cut in where we can get those folks out. Some of these bridges are going to take time to get put back in place. Some of the road issues are going to take time. Right now, we are still in a rescue mode and a recovery mode, but just a basic recovery in terms of transportation infrastructure is going to take months. We were still working on 2022 flood damage when this happened. We've not been able to get caught up on even routine maintenance because we're still dealing with 4 disaster declarations in 17 months, 3 of which resulted in federal disaster declarations. And let me say this, our emergency management team needs to be especially recognized. Pike County is in the top 10 in declared disasters in the last few years. We've had that many. And Nee Jackson and C.J. Childers and Tim Fields and that staff deserves a tremendous thank you because they've worked tirelessly. Nee, is there anything else we need to mention?
There are some FEMA representatives that are in the area today. They're going to be doing what they consider windshield surveys.
Come on up. Yeah, come on up.
I got a call earlier from FEMA, and there are going to be some representatives, and they are legitimate in the area today doing windshield surveys, and this is to speed up the process of getting a federal declaration for individual assistance. So if you see those folks out, they're not supposed to interact a whole lot with the public. They're trying to cover a lot of ground in a short amount of time. So they are legitimate FEMA employees. So if you see that in those affected areas, just know that.
And we're actually documenting while we're here for FEMA. They've offered to take any of the media that we or others have so that they can get that done faster. The last thing I'd say is something the judge was saying when we were out seeing businesses and homes. Be careful when you're cleaning up. You know, wear a mask, make sure you're using the right type of equipment. After the floods in 2022, we lost at least 2 individuals during the cleanup. Take some breaks. After that last ice and snowstorm we had, we lost 4 or 5 individuals to cardiac arrest. Listen, we've already lost 11 people, 11 children of God whose families are mourning. We don't want to lose one more. So let's just make sure we're consistently telling our people out there, take it easy while you're doing it. It's one foot in front of the other. It's a lot of damage. It's going to take some time, but make sure you take care of yourself in the process.
One last thing. We have 3 emergency shelters set up right now. Millard Elementary, Pike County Central High School, and Belfry High School. We can open others as needed. Belfry, we've had some trouble getting water back on in that area. They were supposed to have it restored. We can move those individuals if necessary. The Pike County School System Superintendent Bowling has been anything we've asked for, they've done it. But we do have shelters. If you need a warm place to stay, if you need food, call 432-0210. Mayor Carter asked me to mention one thing. The city has been gracious enough to allow us to use the Expo Center on past occasions, and we will be using it to store all the supplies. Here's what we don't need. We need water, we need shock, disinfectants, squeegees, brooms, mops, and shovels. And we do not need clothes. We don't. I mean, you know, a lot of people want to help by donating clothes. We don't have room for those. There will be a time for that. The Dream Center here in Pikeville, I don't know their number off the top of my head. If you want to donate clothing, you can contact the Dream Center. You can call the Pike County Emergency Management number 432-0210. They can put you in touch with the Dream Center. But right now we need water and cleaning supplies and those types of things to begin with. Do not come to the Expo Center to pick those up. We will distribute those to the volunteer fire departments and any other locations that they will be taken to for distribution. We will make sure the media knows that. Go ahead.
Any questions?
Governor, with NBC News.
Yeah.
I know yesterday you described the system as one of the most serious events that Kentucky has faced, at least in a decade. I know I think back to 2022, I think around 39 people were lost in
45.
57 in the tornadoes. Is that your reference point? And specifically, just what makes this system so tragic?
You're right that we've been through a lot. In those tornadoes, we ended up losing 81 total, including a bunch from my dad's hometown, which was just leveled. The floods in 2022, I don't have to remind anybody here how bad that was, 45 individuals. When you look at this disaster, it hit the whole state, as opposed to that tornado. It was an F4. It stayed on the ground for 200 miles, which is historic in and of itself. But to have a flood warning, not a watch, and then actual flooding events all over the state. We had over 340 state and federal roads closed because of damage that have happened. We've never seen that before. To have this much rain in this many parts of the state, several of our rivers crested to the highest point they ever have. Several of our cities like Frankfort and Bowling Green got the most rain that they ever had in a short period of time. My hope is that the fatalities will stay where they are and stay lower than those others. But certainly when we look at the damage, especially the damage of statewide, but just the breadth of the storm, certainly one of the worst that we've ever seen. Yeah, I am worried about the snow coming right on top, and that's why it's really important in these next 2 days especially for everybody to make sure they're at a safe place. You know, we've got places, whether it's our state parks. Right now, Jenny Wiley is full with parents and kids, but we've got a warm place for them to stay for the next couple days as we get through them. Take advantage of the shelters. If you're not going to have power back on, it's going to get too cold, and this snow is going to be a huge impact. We also need people to be really thoughtful and careful on the roads. Again, we've already lost people on the roads through flooding. We're going to have our transportation cabinet officials and our county and city folks still working the flooding and the debris removal at the same time that they're trying to work the snow issue. So my hope is we get the lower side, which could be just a couple of inches, but if we get 6 inches, it's going to really complicate the cleanup.
Governor, you mentioned that there was some work done in advance, prep work, before the water came on. What kind of work was that, and how would you say that actually helped the situation?
Well, we were helped first by the National Weather Service and all of our meteorologists. We are grateful for all of our meteorologists from each and every one of our news stations that were talking about this event at least a week in advance. And we're also putting context on it. You know, the fact that only a certain number of days a year would we ever see a forecast like this. What small percent, I think only 2% of forecasts that they ever do looked like this one, and the impact that it could have. So the first thing we had are all the great weather people that were out there telling us about it and also giving us a good idea where it would hit, though it did change in the days up to it. But I got 3 updates a day on what it was looking like at that point. So what we were able to do through what we call our USAR teams, which is a new addition to our Emergency Operations Center, was call in all our urban search and rescue teams, all of our SWIFT water teams, we could look out on what all our helicopter with hoist capabilities were, as well as reach out into other states. And we were moving different teams, say from Louisville and Lexington, into other places before the rain even hit. And then we were able to move the Indiana and other teams down based on the projections of when the rivers would crest and the rest. So at different times, we had 4 or 5 dozen different swiftwater teams that were out there, and that's how we end up with 1,000 saves in 24 hours. If you go back to 2022, we had about 1,400 saves in 48 hours. But I'll tell you, this emergency response is one of the best I've ever seen, thanks to amazingly brave people, but also really great coordination and really great professionalism in how they work. We were able to pre-position some National Guard as well. We were able to move some aircraft ahead of time. And so the more heads up we have, we just take all these seriously now. I'd rather over-prepare, and people come back and say we spent too much over-preparing than under. Karen?
Governor, you talked this morning about the water going down in many areas, except a few where the rivers hadn't crested, Martin County being one. Now that you've done the air rescues from that area, do you feel like air rescues and water rescues are completed at this point?
So we had another rescue that was called in on our way here. Now, whether or not we will have another apartment complex that needs to be moved, I don't know if we'll have another apartment complex that needs to be moved, but there are individuals out there that still need help, that are still getting in contact with us. Anything more, Rocky?
The only thing I would add to that is this. You know, we're here in Pike County today, and we're assessing the damage, and the cleanup and recovery has started. But what's still going on across the state? As the NBC reporter asked the question, the Green River in West Kentucky is expected to crest and cause serious damage. But if you're standing here and you understand East Kentucky and West Virginia, you know, you've got the Leviza and the Tug that now is headed down 23 north. And driving from Ashland this morning, and you look at the Leviza almost cresting over 23, not hardly, but almost. So you got Leviza and Tug both now. I don't know what time they're supposed to crest. It's happening as we speak in Martin County. I don't know what's going to happen in Louisa. I don't know what's going to happen on down the Big Sandy, but this is so much broader than past natural disasters. Not to lessen those, but this one is so much bigger, so much broader that we're still in wider. You're right. I mean, we're still in a mode that we were here in Pike County, you know, night before last. I mean, that's what we're experiencing now, what I would say downriver toward the Ohio River now. So, you know, we're in the middle of this, and all of these folks in this room, I came up early today and got with Ray Jones, went over to the emergency operations, and the number of people that are in there from different places is amazing. I mean, we got people here from North Carolina, and you know what happened there. We have folks here that are on the ground and spread out throughout this region, and absolutely, as the governor talking about how many helicopters getting people out of places. Look, you know, it's sad to say what I'm getting ready to say. You know, we're good at what we're doing, but we're having to do it too much. And because we've had to do it too much, I mean, this guy's an expert to coordinate through the people he's put in place to be able to put people in the right places, to be able to respond, hopefully, at the right time. I mean, just look around this room at this. State police are here, people from all these different, I mean, they're here in every capacity. You know, I'm an Eastern Kentuckian. Man, we've been punched too much. We've had our guts knocked out. We take a right cross and then an uppercut, and then we get hit in the gut again. But I'm going to tell you about our people. Man, they get knocked down, they crawl right back up. They crawl right back up. Our people deserve better than this. But I'll tell you, the resilience of people in Eastern Kentucky, to walk in a beauty salon a while ago, to see a lady standing there with tears coming down her eyes. I mean, it's really sad to understand if you're off someplace and you really don't understand what's going on here. Well, I know what this governor's going to do. He's here today. He'll be here tomorrow, this legislature. They're here today. They'll be here tomorrow. And we will react to this situation. And we'll build back a better region than we've ever seen. Because our people have earned it, and our people deserve it. And we're going to stand strong till we make sure that that happens.
I'm going to turn it back over to the judge to close and answer any other questions. I'm headed to Jenny Wiley. We got about 130 Kentuckians that are there. I want to assure them that help is on the way. but just about everybody in here has been a part of the response, and we're really grateful for you. I mean, there's a lot of people who are alive today because of the heroism of folks in this room, whether you were coordinating it from this courthouse or whether you were out on the boat. I just want to thank you for what you all do every day. God bless.
Thanks, Bill. Just a couple things, and then we'll take any questions for Pike County Emergency Management. We have a lot of people who are going to be using propane and other space heaters, portable heaters. We came by a business a few minutes ago where they're filling propane tanks. When this cold weather hits, and we've had this happen in the past, unfortunately, we've had structure fires and we've had people lose their lives trying to use space heaters, propane heaters, kerosene, that kind of thing. Please be careful if you're using supplemental heat. It's very important. Last, I have signed an order putting a curfew in place, and it's not to interfere with anybody's rights. That curfew is from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. It doesn't stop you from going to Walmart or anything like that. If you do not live in an affected area, you have no business being there. You have no business being in the way of rescue crews or cleanup crews. So the order also states that if you are in an area that you don't live and you're not there for rescue or recovery efforts or repair efforts.
Okay, so that was from moments ago in Kentucky. Of course, we're monitoring that story there as well, as it's 3:13 Eastern. The news starting to occur today here on February 17th. There's a few other stories we're following right now. So for Robert McNeely, I'm Matthew Alvarez. Thank you so much for watching RSBN Live. We'll be starting a new stream here in just a minute.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live Show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
Families across the nation have arrived at a heartbreaking crossroad to surrender their beloved animals at alarming rates due to inflation and soaring costs of living.
There are so many overcrowded shelters. So many dogs need a home, but it's all of us working together to solve this crisis.
This fight requires both doers and dollars. Join us at Big Dog Ranch Rescue. Please sign up today.
I'm excited to announce that we're having our first ever mega sale on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save over 50% on this season's flannel sheets. Queen size only $59.98. Kings only $69.98. They sell out fast every year, so order now. Save 20% on our brand new My Crosses. They're designed in the likeness of the one I've worn every day for over 20 years. They come in men's and women's, and they're made right here in the USA. Get our 2025 six-piece My Towel sets for only $29.98. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. And our best-selling standard My Pillows, just $14.98. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our first ever mega sale. But wait, remember that $75 free shipping rule? Well, that ship is sailed, because right now, every order ships absolutely free.
Parents, do your kids know what courage really means? It's about standing up for America even when there's a target on your back. That's why Mike Huckabee's team created the Kids Guide to the Courage of the President. This important guide tells kids everything they need to know about President Trump's unwavering courage, and you can get it for free. With your free order, you'll receive free bonus gifts, including the Kids Guide to President Trump and a Christmas ornament commemorating Trump's call for us to fight. Get it all for free at freetrumpbook.com. That's freetrumpbook.com.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.